San Diego, no warm-up needed. If it matters in this city, you're hearing about it right here.
The Michael King contract, super creative. I think it's a great win for the Padres.
Real opinions, real takes, no wasted time.
It has been the little things that have outdone San Diego State, and that's where they got to improve.
Live and local on 97.3 The Fan. The Braden Surprenant Show starts now.
What's up, San Diego, and happy Monday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We're on each and every day from 10 to 2 here on the airwaves, and it's a lot better talking about Padres wins, Padres sweep of the Miami Marlins over the weekend than it was about, last week. The weekend was hot. It was humid. It's been hot and humid. I think it probably will continue to be hot and humid. I was having some PTSD of living in Texas and having to deal with this weather in the month of August. But you know what the hot weather brought out this weekend, Frank? It brought the bats out. It brought the bats out. It brought out the Windsocks, too. Let me tell you. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I saw on social media just going absolutely bonkers about this Padres team, and they're never going to win, and they're not going to be able to compete for the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, how many people did we have to answer to last week about all that? And they win 3 games against Miami, and all of a sudden it's like, I think we need to buy at the deadline. I mean, are we going to do this for another week, another 7 days? Come on, guys. Let's reel it in a little bit. Come on. All right. Let's break down what happened over the weekend. The Padres won 3 games against a team that has now lost 12 straight. The Padres, from a positive standpoint, have actually played like they were expected to play at the beginning of the year. I think you're finally starting to see what this offense is capable of, which I think is very exciting. This is the offense you were expecting. This is you were hoping Manny Machado could hit like this and Jackson Merrill could hit like this. And I know Fernando didn't have that great of a weekend offensively this weekend, but what he has done over the last month and a half. I mean, we said it last week on the show, and then it was getting reported over the weekend again for everybody that wants to continue. Like, this offense is a bottom 5 offense in baseball. It hasn't been for the last month plus. It's a top 5 offense in baseball right now for the last month and a half. Go look up the numbers. They have been across the board, all statistics, whether it be batting average, OPS, WRC plus, it's top 5 across the board. So the team they are now is a lot different than the team that they were in the first half of the season. That doesn't mean they're going to be a top 5 offense in the whole season by the end of the season. But it means, as of right now, they're a top 5 offense in the game at the time they need it the most. The bullpen, okay? This pitching situation is interesting. And I want to say this about the Padres, because I said it on Friday. I don't think they can keep this going for a long period of time. It's exciting that they got to it at least back to 500. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot. You expect them to try to, hopefully continue to play at a high level. But you got 7 more days before the trade deadline. You get to play 2 very bad teams in Colorado and San Francisco. And if your goal is to replicate what the 2024 Tigers did from a pitching standpoint, I'm not really opposed to that. But you're not going to be able to survive the next 2. I mean, we got 2 more months of baseball. I think a lot of people forget that sometimes when they're talking about, like, I got to sell, I got no chance. There's still 2 months left of baseball. I don't know how they're going to be able to survive doing this strategy for a long period of time. I like it. I like the idea. I love the fact that Craig Stammen is thinking outside the box. Everything's on the table. We heard him say that on Thursday after the Griffin Canning debacle of an outing. And you got to give this staff credit. They're finding ways and trying to create ways to make this team successful. And this weekend, it worked. I don't know if you can keep going like this for a long period of time. I really don't. I mean, I get the strategy, and we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. You basically have 2 starting pitchers and 11 bullpen arms, and we're going to be as elite as possible in the bullpen and hope for the best. I think you could get to the trade deadline doing that. I really do. But that leads to another conversation. But this team right now, I just, as constructed, and I think a lot of people believe this too, this is a team as currently just constructed is not going to do a lot of damage in the postseason. If they make it. I don't necessarily know if they could do that. And that's why I said what I said on Friday. I was like, this team seems like they're done right now. The offense is doing really well, but the starting pitching is so bad. I don't know how you survive this. So they still got a lot of work to do. But if they continue to play like they did over the weekend, mathematically, they do got a shot. I mean, let's not say that they don't have a mathematical shot at this, and things are lining up in their favor. Their schedule is easier than the teams in front of them. They still get to play a handful of teams in front of them, and some of the teams that have the tiebreaker over the Padres for the season are starting to fall apart. I watched St. Louis play over the weekend. I was scoreboard watching. I was flipping between on my MLB.TV. I was looking at all these other teams in these games. I mean, that Marlins team is cooked. They look like exactly what I thought they were going to look like. They're young, okay? They have a lot of upside, but they're going to run out of gas. They had their big stretch right before the All-Star break, and they have come crashing down to earth. That bullpen the Marlins have is terrible. The starting rotation, not bad. We got to see Yuri Perez, and he went deep into the game. I thought he was okay. The other 2 starters, he was good. I thought the other 2 starters were okay. But there's a lot of guys, I mean, in that lineup, and I'm looking in that lineup, and it's filled with players that people are still upset about that we traded away. Like a Jacob Marcy. I watched Jacob Marcy play this entire weekend, and not once I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have that guy than what we have in the outfield. Not once. Xavier Edwards, pretty solid contact guy. I don't really want him more than anybody else on this team. I mean, that team's filled with guys like that. I don't think you need to worry about the Marlins anymore, but the good news is they got Philly this week, so something's going to give. Are they going to get swept by Philly and drop the fifth? I mean, they already have a franchise record losing streak right now. Oh, and by the way, so does their AAA affiliate. Did you know that, Frank? The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, the AAA affiliate of the Marlins, are also currently on a 12-game losing streak. Collectively, the Marlins Major League team and AAA team have lost 24 straight games. You pass them in the standings. So you're looking at the standings right now, right? And remember, everybody was like, you got all these teams, you got 5 teams in front of you. Now you got 4 teams in front of you. One of them's the Cardinals. I watched the Cardinals play this weekend. They looked awful. The Reds took 2 out of 3 in St. Louis. Did you a favor. You're 3 games in front of Cincinnati, who seem to have resurged a little bit here in the second half. But St. Louis, they don't look very good. You're going to pass them very quickly, I think. I'd have to look to see who they're playing today. I think they're playing the Cubs. They got the Cubs for 3 days. That's also a win-win for the Padres. You're currently 6.5 from the top wild card spot. Not a time to get greedy because you have to continue this play. But this week has a lot of impactful games. You got Cubs and Cardinals, 2 teams in front of you battling it out. You got Phillies and Marlins, a team right there on your ass after you swept them, and a team that's still in front of you. You are 4 games back from Philadelphia in that number 2 spot. Arizona, you got coming up after the trade deadline. Washington looked okay against Arizona this weekend. They went 2 out of 3. Pirates didn't look very good against the Cubs. I mean, it is right there for the taking.
And Arizona plays the Pirates. starting tonight.
So that's the other big series, right? This week, the games that you have to pay attention to, and we'll continue this conversation a little bit because we want to dive into what happened over the weekend. Cubs and Cardinals is a big series that impacts the Padres. They play today. I mean, you have a good off day today if you're a Padres fan because you could move up in the standings just based on some of these results. You got the Diamondbacks and the Pirates, two teams in front of you, playing this week. You got the Phillies and the Marlins, a team in front of you and a team behind you in the standings battling it out this week. Blue Jays and Nationals is a pretty big series if you're the Padres, and we'll see what type of performance the Blue Jays have. I mean, they might be fire selling at this point. They're 48 and they're 10 games under 500. Who knows? If the Blue Jays can help you out, that would be great. Another game for you that matters, Cubs and Cardinals. Brewers and Giants don't really matter to you at this point in time. Braves and Mets does not matter to you at any point in time. Guardians, Reds, until the Reds get closer on your tail, that series does not matter. The most important series for you this week, and they're very impactful, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Philly, Miami, Toronto, Washington, Chicago, St. Louis. And all of those games happen today. Padres have an off day with Colorado. They're only going to play Colorado twice. I think that they're the only teams that are not playing besides in Seattle and L.A., who also play tomorrow. I mean, you got to be able to just beat up on the Rockies for the next 2 days. But again, my overall takeaway from the weekend, if they play like this, they have a solid chance. But I don't necessarily know, Frank, if they could keep this up with the way the pitching is. And we'll talk about the pitching staff in just a little bit. But the way they played this weekend, that's what everybody was expecting them to play like all season long.
Yeah, I mean, you also had the kind of version of a piggyback situation as far as the starting pitchers were concerned. So that was interesting to watch all weekend. But yeah, I mean, this has just been the MO of this team. You know, we've been so focused on trying to figure out what A.J. Preller is going to do at the trade deadline and what A.J. Preller's thoughts are and what he's going to do. I should be worried about what this team is going to do because they've been doing this all season long. You win 3 of 4, then you lose 4 of 5, then you win 4 of 5, and then you lose 3 of 4, and then you win 5 of 6. This team has just been so Jekyll and Hyde this year that you can't really predict. I mean, we waved the white flag on Friday. We punted on Friday and said, you know what? Let's just focus on getting ready for 2027. And now, after a sweep of the Marlins, you only need to beat them once in September when they come out here to win the season series. You've got all of the teams in front of you and around you playing each other starting tonight. Now you come home to face the Rockies and the Giants to welcome you into the trade deadline, and now all of a sudden there's excitement and hope back at 100 Park Boulevard. It's been so up and down this season, and now everything is kind of pointing in the direction of they should really make a run here. They've beaten Atlanta pillar to post these last couple of years, lost 3 out of 4 in Atlanta. They never win in South Beach. They never win in Miami.
Hardly ever.
And then you go and sweep them. I mean, this team is... I don't even know how to predict this team anymore. I don't know what else you can say.
I said it jokingly on Thursday when you weren't here to Adam in a break. I said, this team's going to sweep the Miami Marlins this weekend. They are. They're going to sweep Miami this weekend. They're going to be 500 on Monday, and it's going to just buy some more hope again. I mean, that's literally what they're going to do. And they did it. And you know what? I mean, what did I say on the roundtable, the last roundtable we did during the All-Star break about the second half? Do you remember the road trip prediction I had?
No. I remember that conversation.
I said they would go 2-3 against Kansas City. I thought they would split with Atlanta, and I thought they'd lose 2-3 to Miami. And that would get you to what? 500.
Yeah.
You would stay. Chris is like, wait, so they'll stay the same and be 500 on Monday before they get back for the home. I said, you know what? Yeah, I think they will be 500.
They took a different route, but
it was
they
a
got
different
there.
route, but they did exactly what we thought they were going to do. And it's almost like it's a 500 team playing 500 ball. How many times do we have to say this every single year? You're going to win 60. You're going to lose 60. It's what you do in the 42 that matters. The Padres might actually, in their first 120 games here, be 60-60. And then we could just figure out what happens in the last 42 games. That was kind of where we got to last year. Was it not? Kind of the same. It's remarkable. By the way, I think, you know what? Go Aztecs in the Twitch chat is right. It's time to fire off the sounder. Since we have created said sounder.
We won a game yesterday. And if we win one today, that's 2 in a row. We win one tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. It has happened before.
And it just happened this weekend. We have achieved the winning streak. It's so fast. I literally, in a joking way, said it on Thursday off air. I said, this team will sweep the Marlins because they weren't expected to. The Marlins are desperate for a win on a losing streak. The Padres, who haven't really done well in Miami in their history, it all lines up for them to just watch. They'll sweep them, and then we'll be 500 on Monday, and we'll be back to exactly where we were. And you know what? What was the? I have to go back because I can't remember off the top of my head. Were they when they went to the All-Star break? Were they 3.5 games out of a wild card spot?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, you play on this road trip, and this is like the type of trip that you want. More times than not, it's like, hey, play 500 ball on the road, win at home. You're going to be in the postseason. But if we go back to All-Star break day, the Padres were 3.5 out of a wild card spot at 48-48. They have now picked up a game and a half, and all they did was play 500 ball. I think that tells you just how mediocre the other teams are in the National League that are competing for a wild card spot. I think it honestly says more about the rest of the National League than it says about the Padres. And I think the Padres offense right now is good enough to be a playoff team. Their bullpen, with guys coming back, might be good enough to be a playoff-type bullpen. It's just the starting rotation. And the question is, can the Padres deploy this strategy for longer than a week? What is that strategy? Well, you saw it over the weekend. We're going to talk more about it when we come back. And you got to give Craig Stammen and their staff credit for figuring out ways to use what they got to win games. We discuss next on the Braden Surprenant Show. Standing as number Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 10:23 on a Monday. I just looked up the we're going to get into this Padres pitching conversation because I think it's an interesting strategy. And that reminds me, I got to pull out my notepad for this. Just so...
He has a notepad, folks. He's reaching into his backpack.
Yeah, I need my notepad so I can write down stuff for the rosters and stuff like that. I need a pen, and I'm going to grab that in a second. I look up, and I heard the morning show talking about this as well. And I know maybe we talk more detail about this in a second, Frank, but Mike Trout, like, if you're Mike Trout, I thought Ben Higgins brought up a good question when it comes to Mike Trout. Do you feel bad for Mike Trout being on a perennial loser and never making the playoffs and probably never going to make the playoffs again in his career? What has he got, 4 at-bats or something like that? Has he got 4 at-bats?
That means he made it once.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, he's never going to make it ever again on this team. They're not ever going to get to that point during his time. I mean, how old is Mike Trout now? He's got to be, what? He's 34. Do you feel bad for Mike Trout being on a perennial loser now and not getting an opportunity to play in the postseason if he never complains about it? Like, the fact that he never says anything, the fact that he's never really upset about it, I mean, he's a team guy. It's great. I think it's very admirable. I love the fact that he signed with his original team, the loyalty thing. So for every time that a guy doesn't take, and it wasn't even a hometown discount, but for every guy that signs with somebody else and chases the money and chases on teams that are big market team, and the Angels are a big market team, but that chases being on a winning team, and you just like, why didn't you sign with the original team? I think you could point to Mike Trout being like, this is why you don't do that. But I think he's taken the high road the entire time. He's 34 years old. Unless he starts like verbally complaining about where he's at, I honestly don't feel that bad because he decided to be there and he has just toned the line. That's great. I think that's very admirable. But if Mike Trout wants to actually be in the postseason, I think now is the time because it's only going to get harder to trade him based on his contract and what he's producing. But he's got a 3.1 WAR. He's got an 866 OPS. It's not like he's completely incompetent, right? And this is one of the years that he hasn't been super banged up. And I'm not saying the Padres should trade for him. I'm just saying in general, if you're Mike Trout and you want to be on a playoff team, is now the time to start verbally saying and maybe saying to me, I need to get out of here or I need to trade? That was brought up on the morning show. I kind of have to agree. This might be the time that Mike Trout needs to be like, you know what? I need to get out of here. You're going to have to try to find a spot to trade me. Do you feel bad for him if he doesn't say that?
Not really. I mean, he's pledged his allegiance to Anaheim for quite a number of years now. So, I mean, it's not like he's a guy who's been trying to get out of there and Anaheim just refused to trade him. He hasn't really tried to get out. So he's given them every opportunity and then some. I would personally, as a general manager, I would say, listen, unless you really object to this, I think out of mercy, we probably should just trade you.
I know, but what I'm saying is, do you feel bad for Mike Trout if he gets stuck in the Angels if he never says, get me out of here?
No.
I don't feel bad for him. It doesn't really sound like he wants to leave, if that's
exactly.
the case, right?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
Maybe he just likes staying there. But if he actually wants to be on a playoff team and have a chance to win a World Series, his window is getting smaller and smaller at age 34 now, multiple injuries. I mean, he's going to start running out of opportunities to do that. Now is probably the best time to potentially ask for a trade. And I don't know what his contract is. I don't know about no trade clause. I'm sure he's owed a ton of money. But, the Phillies have always dreamed about adding a guy like adding Mike Trout back to their team and having him in Philly and all that other stuff. I just feel like this has to be the year if Mike Trout wants to get out of Anaheim, this needs to be the year that he goes, you know what, guys, I've done everything I could here. I've given you a lot of opportunity, but I need to trade. Mike Trout is owed. He's getting $37 million a year until 2031, but he counts towards $35 million on the AAV, which is not too bad. I mean, I bet you a team would take him.
Full no trade clause, contract notes. This is from Spotrac. Full no trade clause, no opt outs, home game suite, and Diamond Club seats.
That's fun.
All-Star a $50,000 bonus for All-Star.
Hit that again this year.
$100,000 for Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, and ALCS MVP. That one was lofty. And then $500,000 for AL MVP.
He's probably cashed on a handful of those. I mean, this would be the time, Mike, if you want to get out of there, dude. This would be the time. I just don't think he's that type of guy, though.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be an Angel Hall of Famer. He's going to get his number retired in Anaheim. He has done more than his fair share
For the Angels?
for the Angels.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What's he got? 4 at-bats? Is that what it is?
4 at-bats.
4 at-bats in a playoff game. 4 at-bats. I mean, it's just somebody saved Mike Trout. Somebody, not the Dodgers, saved Mike Trout. I don't really like the Phillies. But like if he went to Philly, it'd be kind of cool. Would it be kind of cool? I mean, me and you both don't like Philly or anything about Philly. Him being that he's an Eagles season ticket holder, like I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him in a Phillies uniform.
He's a Philadelphia guy.
The Philadelphia guy. But I don't know if that's something that they would be interested in doing. I mean, you would have to think of big time, people that want to spend big time money to maybe get him off their hands. I mean, the Angels, I don't think. The Angels probably don't want to eat any type of money to get rid of Mike Trout. I mean, he's the only reason why people go to their games, right? He's like he's the only marketable guy they have.
No, they marketed Alek Manoah pretty well.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's that's probably going to do it. Yeah, the Mike Trout thing is interesting. I feel like Mike Trout has to, if he wants out, this is the time he's going to have to say, "I'm out of here." I really do. The Angels are so bad. They did pretty well this weekend against the. I didn't see the final scores for these games against the Giants, but every time I looked up, it looked like the Angels were kicking their ass. I guess they got smoked on Saturday. They lost in extras on Friday, so I guess they didn't do that. They finally got a victory on Sunday, but they're terrible. The Angels are terrible. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, let's talk about the pitching staff for the Padres and the pitching plan. Is it sustainable? What is the plan? I think a lot of people might have been confused about what was going on this weekend. I was on Friday. Then I started to figure out exactly what they were doing. Maybe, was it more confusing than them wearing the blue and orange hats with the brown tops?
That looked so bad. Like, I understand the gimmick,
That's an MLB
but
problem, not a Padres
No,
problem.
100%.
We'll talk about that later on as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show. Setting us over at Sports Station 97 through the Fan. All of our guests join us on the SCCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. All right. We're going to talk about what happened over the weekend in terms of pitching, because I think it's interesting. And you know what? You have to give this coaching staff and front office, or whoever came up with this, you have to give this group some credit for trying to navigate what they have from a pitching standpoint to make it successful. And what I mean by that is, we all know, Frank, that this pitching staff, as assembled right now, is not great in terms of the starting pitching. That's why we waved the white flag on Friday. They could not keep rolling out Griffin Canning, and they couldn't keep rolling out JP Sears has done okay. But you know what? Vandy Vasquez and Matt Waldron and Armand Marquez. I mean, you couldn't keep rolling these guys out there and expecting them to get you like 5 innings. It was destroying the bullpen. So what did they do? Well, they elected to take on and embrace pitching chaos. And it's relative. It's only because of the fact that they have no other choice. They're improvising. They've run out of starting pitching. You can never have too much pitching. Padres have run out of it. And I will say it time and time again. I talked about this again with Sammy Lev off air on Friday after the conclusion of our show. Your current starting rotation, aside from King, it might have been Buehler, Marquez, Sears, Vasquez, and you can even throw in a Waldron. Those guys were all brought in to compete for one spot, not to be your rotation. They have no choice. They have no choice. Collectively, the best guy out of this group has been Walker Buehler. If he was your number 5, you could survive with this, but you can't because he is like your number 2. Why are you going to continue to roll out guys to start games traditionally that can't get it done? That can't get it done. So what the Padres did with the trade deadline approaching and their playoff hopes barely alive, the Padres abandoned the traditional 5-man rotation in favor of what the 2024 Tigers coined as the pitching chaos. The strategy involves multiple pitchers sharing what normally belongs to one starter. Against Miami, Germán Marquez threw just 2 1/3 innings before the bullpen took over. I thought, even with this strategy, though, Frank, I thought, why are they taking Germán Marquez out right now? I thought he got hurt. Somebody texted me, was like, did they just trade Germán Marquez? Why is he out of the game? Think about how bizarre that had to be. That's how much, like, it didn't make any sense. It came to the point where, think about how ludicrous it would have been trading Germán Marquez with how he's pitched this year. And then understand, Frank, that somebody thought that was more reasonable than taking him out in the current position that he was in. That's how it didn't make, it was like, it didn't make any sense at the time. But now, as we look back and you started to see what happened over the weekend, the pitching chaos, it's all hands on deck every single day, except for Walker Buehler and Michael King. Those are the only traditional starters left on this team. But Marquez had 2 1/3 innings, 1 earned run, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts. He did give up that 1 home run that gave him the 1 run, but he hadn't been pitching that poorly. I know he had a guy on base at the time, but I thought for sure they'd let him go like 3. Then they went with Kyle Hart. Put up no runs. Then he went with Wandy Peralta. He gave up an earned run. Bradley Rodriguez came in 2/3 of an inning. Morahone came in, inning and a third. Mason Miller pitched in that game on Friday, got an inning, had a strikeout. Padres win, only give up 2 earned runs. They did the same thing the next day, and then yesterday was a little bit different because they let Walker Buehler go because he's part of their traditional starting pitching. But Germán Marquez, 2 1/3 innings before the bullpen took over. Saturday, Randy Vasquez threw only 37 pitches, 2 2/3 innings. Then J.P. Sears took over for 3 1/3 scoreless innings. That was the piggyback that Frank was mentioning. Both games were planned this way because it was by design. It's going to be the norm, as Craig Stammen mentioned. I mean, right now the Padres effectively have 2 starters in King and Buehler, and everybody else has been part of an 11-man bullpen. You have Canning, Hart, Marquez, Matsui, Miller, Morahone, Peralta, Rodriguez, Sears, Vasquez, and Waldron. It's an interesting strategy. I get why they're doing. And the coaching staff believes the previous approach wasn't working, so instead of hoping struggling starters could survive another inning, they're eliminating the guesswork. Craig Stammen admitted they often let pitchers in 1 hitter too long, 1 inning too long, and now they'll simply remove them before trouble begins. They're dictating the strategy. And it comes from the Tigers in 2024, who were in the same position as this Padres team at 50 and 53 before racking up a bunch of wins and making the postseason. And they lost most of its rotation, but still reached the postseason using multiple pitchers every game. The Tigers prove the team doesn't necessarily need the 5 traditional starters, and the Padres hope some version of that blueprint can work. But the biggest difference, though, of course, is what, Frank? What's the biggest difference between the 2024 Padres pitching staff the 2024 Tigers pitching staff and this current pitching staff for the Padres?
Current Padre pitching staff is a little bit worse, I would say.
They had Tarek Skubal. The Padres have Michael King. Michael King's good. Michael King's not Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal will go like 8 innings and just dominate. Michael King he's been very up and down. Tigers also had a lot of durable relievers. They had healthy bullpen arms. They had a lot more stability. And the Padres currently have several important relievers injured, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be there. I mean, they're expected to come back. We got the injury reports of Estrada's expected to be back soon. Morgan is expected to be back just after him. They think Jason Adam will be back at the end of August. You start throwing those guys in there, and this looks a little bit more like a deployable strategy. The other thing, too, it's not about, they're trying to win now. I mean, they've gone to pretty much playoff mode, the Padres have. They got 16 games in 16 days, and the pitchers are they're going to need some help. And I mean, if pitchers start throwing 90 to 100 pitches now, the bullpen may completely collapse. But instead, everybody throws shorter outings, more frequent appearances. It's essentially workload management. So they're limiting the number of pitches for all these guys. They're going to pitch a lot more often, but not as many pitches. It's a way to protect arms and a way to try to use what they have in their favor. I like this idea, Frank. I think it can work against Colorado. I think it can work against San Francisco. I think it gets you to the trade deadline. I don't necessarily think, though, this is something that can last for the next 2 months. They're going to need some help.
No, yeah, they absolutely are. If they are serious about wanting to make a playoff push with the roster, the lineup being the way it is right now, you need to bring in a pitcher. There's no question about it. This is a short-term fix. It's worked. You can't deny that. It has definitely worked, but it is a short-term fix for a long-term issue right now. So, I mean, it's something you can go back to. It's something you guys can go, hey, we've done this before. We got to do it again here for a little stretch. But this is not a long-term solution to run to the end of the season. You have to pick somebody up. And also, very good on this coaching staff. Sometimes youth and inexperience as far as management goes sometimes means that you look at things in a different way that's not considered, quote-unquote, the norm. And you're more open and willing to trying more outlandish, quote-unquote, ideas. Good on them for being flexible and trying to figure out any solution to a problem, no matter how unique and unorthodox it may be.
All right, let's talk about how this works with getting some reinforcements back, right? I went through it. This is the report from Kevin Acey's newsletter, and he went on to say Estrada's expected to return this week. Morgan is mid-August. And Adam is late August. Okay, so you're going to have some fresher arms, I guess, when they come back in August. But if you start looking at it from that standpoint, I like this strategy even more when you have guys like Estrada and Morgan. So then you don't have the situation like, what was that against Atlanta? Wandy Peralta's in the 8th inning. You got Estrada and Morgan. You already used Morejon. You can use one of those guys in the 8th inning. Same thing with Jason Adams. So you start lopping off names here, right? Like, I at this point, when you look at some of these names, you're going to get Estrada back. You're going to have to find one guy on this list already you want to lop off. I mean, how many more times can you trust Canning at this point? I mean, in reality.
And also, we saw a big name go on to the waiver wire after he got DFA'd, Lance McCullers. That's a guy that you might want to take a flyer on. He only pitched 4 2/3 innings. I think he only gave up 2 runs and struck out 5 in 2 appearances out of the bullpen for Milwaukee. That's a guy who you thought you were going to have to pay a pretty hefty price to trade for. Now you just pick him up through waivers. That's somebody I'd be willing to give a shot.
I think you would. It's not bad if you would just want to just completely cut bait with Canning. I mean, I'd rather give Lance McCullers Jr. a chance than watch Canning pitch ever again for the Padres. I really would. But you start talking about like getting Estrada back, Morgan back, Adam back, and you start lopping off some of the worst, the guys that haven't performed as well. My thing would be Canning and Waldron. I don't know if they're going to do that, but those are the 2 that first come to mind. And then after that, you're not going to get rid of Vasquez. You could send Sears down. He's actually been one of your better pitchers. It might be Marquez. Or maybe you send Kyle Hart down, right? When you get Adam back. So, let's just say you get rid of Marquez. So now you have Hart, Matsui, Miller, Morejon, Peralta, Rodriguez, Sears, Vasquez, Estrada, Morgan, Adam. And then if you get one guy back out of, maybe you get Musgrove and Pivetta back, you lop 2 more off. Honestly, if you're deploying the strategy, you don't necessarily need Musgrove and Pivetta to really go that deep into games, do you? You just add them to this bullpen thing? I mean, at that point, you get rid of Hart and you add Musgrove, and then you got one more that you can lop off, and it's probably going to be Sears at that point, and you bring back Pivetta. That's a lot different of a pitching staff than right now. And again, you're holding out hope, and then you add one. Let's just say you add one arm, right? You can add one arm to this team. You probably have to make a decision maybe on the bullpen with guys like, maybe you trade Peralta and you use what you got and flip for something else. But I look at this strategy. I think it definitely gets you to the trade deadline. But with some of these guys coming back from injury, it makes it a little bit more able to deploy this kind of strategy. I mean, I think they can. You're getting arms back at the right time. Now, when it comes to like trying to go get another starter, it sounds like AJ Preller would love to get multiple starters. It's just I don't know how you'd be able to do it because, like, it's a seller's market. They have a weak farm system. They have limited prospect capital. He doesn't want to trade his elite bullpen arms. So even if Preller wants 2 starters, he may be only able to afford one. And if he gets one, it's going to be like, I don't know, like a Freddie Peralta, like a rental guy. I will tell you this, and I heard it on the morning show, and I totally agree. You can't afford to trade Cash Mayfield or Cruz Schoolcraft for a rental in Peralta. You can't do that. At some point, in the not-so-distant future, because neither of those guys are going to help you next year. And neither of those guys are a guarantee to help you the following year, but you need somebody like those two to come up and help. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself in this current situation more times than not. You're going to have to start keeping these guys. So if you're unable to trade Ethan Salas and you're not going to trade Cruz Schoolcraft and Mayfield, then I don't know how you're going to be able to get a starting pitcher. I think it might be a little bit tough. It's an interesting dilemma for AJ Preller coming up at the trade deadline. But with the current bullpen as it is, and with some of these names that are coming back, I think they can make it through a little bit if they add one pitcher at the deadline. Or maybe go get a couple relievers, Frank. I mean, it's a lot more obtainable to get relievers than it is to get starters. And you load up with some relievers that haven't been used a lot. Maybe they have a couple of years of control, and you reshape the bullpen a little bit. That might be the move at the trade deadline. It might seem like maybe buying at the margins or whatever, but I think you got to keep Michael King. Honestly, I would be willing to trade Morejon at the deadline. I think you're going to get a lot of pieces back, and then try to flip him for some other help in other areas. Because right now, I mean, unless you could get rid of Peralta, you got a lot of interesting decisions you have to make in that bullpen with some of these guys coming back if you're going to go with that particular strategy.
Yeah, Adrian Morejon, I think, is the most likely to go, and I believe we'll talk about it in a couple minutes here. That seems to be the case going through Major League Baseball, as it feels like Morejon would be the most likely one to go. It was brought up by a caller on Friday. It's not that outlandish of an idea to trade Michael King. Could give you a lot of value back, but I just don't know with the starting pitching needs, especially that the Padres need. I don't know if you can afford to get rid of King.
I also don't totally believe he's going to opt out of this deal. When we come back, what else is going on in the trade rumors? We'll get to our trade update at 11. 11 o'clock on the Braden Surprenant Show on a Monday. It's a hot one out there. It's going to be a hot one all week. It's going to be humid all week. Not great. Not the best, but El Nino's probably one. I bet you the ocean's really warm. Bet you that's the case. We're broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. All of our guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. I mean, I've come to, maybe we table this conversation and get to it again in a little bit, but like, if you go with the two-man rotation and the 11 guys in the bullpen, I mean, by September, you could have King, Buehler, Musgrove, Pivetta, Estrada, Morgan, Adam, Miller, Rodriguez, Vasquez, Peralta, Matsui, maybe a trade piece. I say you trade Morahone. And an interesting conversation on this was the gentleman that writes for The Athletic that covers the New York Yankees, his name is Chris Kirschner. He put out his 5 trades that he would do for the Yankees, and Jim Bowden said whether or not they would say yes or no. The trade he put together for Mason Miller was an absolute no from Jim Bowden, but the trade that he made for Adrian Morahone was interesting because it would lead to Elmer Rodriguez and Bryce Cunningham, 2 starting pitching prospects, coming back for a rental in Adrian Morahone. That might be worth a trade. And so from there, I think it's a lot easier to obtain a bullpen arm than it is a starter. You add one that replaces Morahone. You get a lot of guys coming back like Estrada, Morgan, and Adam in our latest update we got from Kevin Acee on that. And, with Musgrove and Pivetta coming back. By the way, I haven't talked about Giolito or whatever. I mean, that's like getting rid of some of these guys. But you got some pitching there. And the back end of the bullpen is still really good, even without Morahone. And then, you pair Elmer Rodriguez and Bryce Cunningham with Cruz Schoolcraft and Cash Mayfield. I mean, you actually have a couple of guys maybe that will pan out to help you in the long run. And I'm people don't understand. Everybody wants to keep Adrian Morahone. I mean, I don't want to see him go, Frank. But the reality is, he's going to cost you almost as much as a closer. You're not going to win that bid. I like Adrian Morahone. I don't like Adrian Morahone for $14 million a year. I don't. I absolutely do not. Now's probably the best time. I don't think Adrian Morahone's coming back next year. I think it's 50-50 whether or not Michael King's coming back next year based on the opt-in, opt-out situation. I think the Padres have a couple of things in their favor there, where Michael King is not necessarily having the best year, but also at the same, he's having a good year, but he's not going to have the best year. He's not having the best year, and on top of that with the CBA, it might be just better for him to just say yes and opt in the next year. But with the way that the Padres are deploying their new strategy of pitching, I think it's going to work this week against Colorado and San Francisco. But the big question is, can it work against the other teams that you're competing with in the National League pennant race? And I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but I guess it'll remain to be seen. But that's not the only thing that's going on right now in Major League Baseball. We got ourselves some rumors out there on the trade deadline. We are 1 week away. Here's the latest MLB here's the latest on MLB's buzz around the trade candidates for 2026.
All righty, let's get into this here. All right, so what's going on? Latest here, trade deadline 1 week away. Right now, of course, the biggest name on the trade block is Tarek Skubal. The Tigers, will they, won't they, with saga with Skubal is easily this year's top trade deadline storyline. Skubal, who has looked like his old self after undergoing arthroscopic elbow surgery back in May, says he wants to stay. Baseball smarts would say probably get rid of him because he might cost you too much. This is by far and away the biggest storyline so far.
Tigers just lost 2 out of 3 to the Royals, who are bad. I know they beat the Padres 2 out of 3. That doesn't mean they're not bad. They're bad. Detroit 6 games under 500. They're 3.5 games back. It's going to be tough for, I think, the Tigers to play their way into relative contention. I know 3.5 games back isn't that far off. They played a lot better baseball in the second half. They're going to have to add a decent amount at the deadline. And I don't know if they can just risk having, pulling in Angels and just having Tarek Skubal down the stretch. I find this to be very interesting of a decision for the Detroit Tigers, especially, Frank, with how much they could get for him because the starting pitching market's not very high.
Yeah.
And he's the best option.
Yeah, he's by far and away the best option. Also, probably, again, the most likely to move, too, because of how much he can get for you, how much he can bring in.
And he's a free agent at the end of the year. I think that's the other biggest difference here. But I will say, as much as I don't want to be two-faced here, but as much as we talk about, it doesn't seem very logical for the Padres to trade Mason Miller. Now they're different circumstances. I do think there's a little bit of the national media pumping the Tarek Skubal trade talk to try to get people to tune into their trade coverage just as much as the Miller stuff. But the Skubal one actually makes a little bit more sense than Mason Miller.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll breeze through Mason Miller here as we've talked about it ad nauseum over the last week. Mason Miller is one of the biggest names attached to trade rumors that have been going around. That does not mean AJ Preller is standing still now that the Padres are back at 500. Padres could still listen on Adrian Morejon and potentially Michael King as the trade deadline approaches. San Diego's focus appears to be improving the roster for 2026 and beyond while staying competitive this year.
I keep leaning towards the Stan Pat trade deadline, but I thought Ben brought up a good point today on the morning show about standing pat. I mean, usually when you stand pat, you never feel at the end of the season like you did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're good enough to make the playoffs, you get a limited playoffs. Like, why didn't we buy? And then if you don't make the playoffs, like a game, you're like, well, why didn't we didn't just sell and try to get something out of it? I think the hindsight's too much on that. I mean, they're going to have a good week this week, I think, against Colorado and San Francisco. And I think the Padres are going to buy. I also think that it would be very nonsensical, even if they don't do very well, to trade away Mason Miller unless they get, I don't want to say a haul because I think that's so vague and stupid, but they would have to get blown away. The price tag for Mason Miller is the price tag that's so high that nobody would buy it, basically saying he's not actually for sale. Nobody is off limits. The right deal will come around for somebody to say yes. It might be a serious overpay, but that will be eventually what it takes to acquire a Mason Miller, as you saw the Padres do last year in getting him. It was the A's didn't have any interest in trading Mason Miller. They didn't think they were going to do that, and then they dangled Leo DeVries out there, and they're like, it was an offer they couldn't refuse. But from the whole situation of what they did this weekend and everything, I think it's going to be very difficult to show that clubhouse the way that they've been playing recently. They're playing the best baseball they've had, at least offensively, to show that clubhouse, hey, we're selling at where they're at. So I don't think Mason Miller goes anywhere. I think you're starting to see more and more articles about this deadline and saying he's not going anywhere. I don't think he is. I think Adrian Morejon will go somewhere, but I don't think Mason Miller will.
Yeah, so much for breezing through that. CJ Abrams, the Nationals are not actively shopping Abrams, but they are reportedly willing to listen. At just 25 years old and under team control through 2028, Abrams represents exactly what contenders want, a young athletic shortstop that can impact games for years. The Yankees, Brewers, and Red Sox have all been connected to him. The price tag will be high, but Washington has to decide whether or not Abrams is part of their next contender or a valuable asset they can use to accelerate their rebuild.
I really hope this is like... I really want to see C.J. Abrams traded so we can stop talking about the Nationals having C.J. Abrams and people freaking out about it like it was the worst thing ever when they traded for a generational talent and got to the NLCS. The Red Sox are pushing hard for a shortstop right now. And I think, there's not a lot of shortstops on the market. They might have to overpay for C.J. Abrams. I've seen a lot of Padres fans address this and go like, hey, look, you can get Xander Bogaerts back, right? I mean, do you really want Sungwoo Song in the lineup every day? I personally don't. I really don't. I mean, he's great defensively, but I'd still rather have Xander in that particular spot than Sung Moon Song. But if the Red Sox are desperate enough to trade for a shortstop and they want to take him on and take his contract, I think it'd be hard to say no to that. I just don't think they're going to do that. I don't necessarily know they're going to overpay for C.J. Abrams either. But I could see the Nationals trading him because the Nationals just seem to be punting for the future for eternity after they won in 2019. Could you imagine they trade him and in a year and a half from now they trade James Wood?
Oh, I could see it happening.
I could totally see that happening.
For sure. One of the biggest surprise names on the trade rumor market has been New York Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor. However, a Lindor trade remains unlikely. The superstar shortstop has 5 years and $171 million remaining on his contract, plus a full no-trade clause. The bigger story is the Mets becoming major sellers. New York could make multiple moves with players like Freddie Peralta, A.J. Minter, Brooks Raley, Tyrone Taylor, Clay Holmes, Luis Robert Jr., Francisco Alvarez, a partridge in a pear tree at this point, among names generating interest.
Are there any of those names you want to keep as a Mets fan?
I mean, I would like to keep Francisco Alvarez, but the guy's hurt so much.
Doesn't sound like you really want to keep anybody else.
No.
They have to cut bait with a lot of players. Did you see the report that they can't wait? They want to get Luis Robert Jr. off their hands.
Yep, I did.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they got left holding the bag right there. Everybody's trying to pass it around. Like, hey, anybody want this guy? Nope. Absolutely not. I think they sell probably most of their team at the deadline. I think teams might get desperate for players and just start making calls.
2026 New York Mets are going to be the 2025 Minnesota Twins. They're going to sell everything that's not tied down.
And then be ready to compete next year, as Ken Rosenthal said the Twins were going to be.
As you do. Speaking of the Minnesota Twins, catcher Ryan Jeffers is next on this list. Catching is one of the biggest needs around baseball, and Jeffers could be the most available impact catcher. Yankees, Rays, and Red Sox are among teams searching for help behind the plate. Jeffers has posted a strong offensive season and could become one of the most valuable position players moved before the deadline.
It's a lot of teams. Aren't the Yankees looking for a catcher? The Twins, though, they're a game out of a wild card spot right now. I mean, maybe they trade him.
Only to draw the Yankees in the wild card and get not even needing to take their clothes out at the hotel.
I mean, seriously. Have the Twins beaten the Yankees once?
No.
Right? In individual games. I know they lost all the series. They're on a massive losing streak to the Yankees. Could you imagine the Twins trade Jeffers to the Yankees? They make it back. They make it into the playoffs and get the Yankees in the first round? That's not out of the realm of possibilities. I wasn't my week to watch the Twins. I mean, they're a game under 500. They're a game out of a wild card spot. Negative 27 run differential. I think they hold the key to a big trade deadline if they decide to go in the opposite direction. The Twins this week, in terms of who they play, because there's 7 games left. The Twins are they playing today? I don't see the Twins.
I believe there are. There's a game that starts in a half hour.
They're off today. The Twins are back in action tomorrow against Kansas City. Seth Lugo's pitching. So they got Kansas City Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday they have Seattle. That doesn't really help us determining whether. I mean, they can theoretically do pretty decent.
They're 2-1 against the Yankees this year so far. Son of a gun! Look at that.
They usually do that. They just can't beat them in the postseason.
19 to plus 9 run differential. You take that.
I think they trade Jeffers. I think they finished what they started last year.
Player that we're going to see this weekend, Luis Arraez, next on this list. 3-time batting champion, is one of the best pure hitters available, hitting .320 and has improved defensively, making him an attractive target for trade candidates, trading contenders needing consistency at the plate. The Giants are expected to sell with Arraez and pitcher Robbie Ray among their top candidates.
I can see the Padres trading for Arraez. I don't think I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. I can see them doing that.
So, Luis, you want to just stay after the weekend?
Seriously, I mean, I feel like he might be a Padre come Monday. I feel like he would be like just enough of a bat to do this, and I think you could move things around a little bit. Maybe you trade. I wouldn't want to trade Ty France, but
Adam second, boys.
The thing is, though, like Craig Stammen is moving guys all over the place, like, with the exception of Manny.
That was a joke.
I know. Luis Arraez batting in other spots in this order, I think would be okay. He improved his defense too, so it's not like he only has to be a DH. I mean, they need a corner outfielder. The problem is, if you decided to do that with Arraez, you put Sheets in left field. Can Sheets play left field every day? Because you could theoretically have let's just go. You could have Sheets in left, Merrill in center. You could have Toddy in right. You could have Machado at third, Bogarts right, and then you could go Cronenworth at second, France at first, Campusano catching. Your DH is Arraez. It's not the worst. Maybe you can have other days where Arraez plays second and you move Cronenworth to third base. You could do that too, and then here's the other thing too. If you have Arraez or Cronenworth, you could have Song be a DH. A Song be a defensive replacement late. Guys like Jace Bowen could be a defensive replacement late. I wouldn't be like opposed to it, and I think that would be a cheap move that you could make. I don't know if they'd give you Robbie Ray too. I think you would have to give up a little bit more for that. But, maybe there's a deal to be had there. Maybe they take on Rafael Devers' contract. I would hate to see that, but I just have this weird feeling that Arraez will be a Padre on Monday. I haven't talked to anybody about it. It's not rumors. This is just like a gut feeling. It's not a crazy gut feeling, though, Frank. No. It strikes me as a move that they would make.
Yeah, I believe it, too. Toronto's disappointing season has changed their deadline plans after coming close to a World Series last year. The Blue Jays are now considering selling veterans. Kevin Gausman leads this list as starting pitcher. George Springer, Shane Bieber, Dalton Varsho, and Max Scherzer are all potential trade candidates. Gausman has struggled this season, but contenders believe his postseason experience and history as a frontline starter could make him valuable as the season comes to an end.
I saw that he was, the Padres were linked to Kevin Gausman. At this point, I'm at the point here, and we have to take a break. So this will be my final thoughts on this. And who did we not get to on this list?
Zach Neto.
Yeah, Zach Neto doesn't really matter. I'm more interested in Jose Soriano and Reed Detmers in that particular case. But my thing on Gausman, I think if the Padres do get a starting pitcher, it will be a Gausman, Freddie Peralta type. But I don't know what they have to trade for those guys, because I don't think you can afford to trade any of your top three players. And the only thing that I think you might be able to do is flip Morejon to a contender, get some good prospects back, and then turn that into a deal where you improve, maybe your starting staff. But even then, I don't know if let's say I got a trade idea for you that we'll break down when we come back. How about that? Because we got to get to break. But it involves Morejon going somewhere else and then you getting some prospects back that you flip for another player. We'll talk about that next. 11:25 on a Monday. No Padres baseball today. Much needed day off after a long road trip. They went 5-5 on the road trip, and they sit exactly at 500, 53-53. And what are they? 2 games out of a wild card spot now? That's unbelievable. They picked up a game and a half during this road trip, and they played 500 ball. They even passed the team. It's crazy. Big series this week. Pirates have a big series this week. Who are the Pirates playing? The Diamondbacks. Phillies and Marlins are a big series this week. Blue Jays and Nationals, bigger for the Padres than anybody else. Cubs and Cardinals, big series this week. I mean, there's some big games coming up and big series coming up this week that you want to pay attention to, and most of them are going to be like right after our show. I mean, Diamondbacks and Pirates are a 3:40 start today. Phillies and Marlins are at 3:40 start. Blue Jays and Nationals, 3:45 start today. Cubs and Cardinals, 4:45 start. I mean, you might know by like 7 o'clock whether or not the Padres are moving up in the standings just based on not having to play. Now, let's discuss what I teased going to break about what you could potentially do. So we saw that article in The Athletic about, Adrian Morejon and, getting sent to the Yankees potentially. This is just an idea for one of the beat writers of the Yankees. Adrian Morejon for Elmer Rodriguez and Bryce Cunningham. I think the best way to improve your club in the future and right now is to trade Adrian Morejon. I think you could trade Adrian Morejon and then flip your return for somebody that can help you. And I think it's going to be something like you trade Adrian Morejon for these 2 particular players, Bryce Cunningham and Elmer Rodriguez. I think you use one of them and then a couple of mid-tier prospects, and you make a trade to get like a combo of Robbie Ray and Luis Arraez. I mean, to me, that would be like the moves that the Padres make. Now, the deal with Robbie Ray is you're going to have to give up something good for him because it's a seller's market. And there's not enough pitching to go around, and he's having a pretty good year with a 3.16 ERA this season. He's 9-6 with 3.16 ERA. He's got 101 strikeouts already. I mean, that would be a solid move. I think that would improve your pitching staff, and I could just see them doing that with Luis Arraez. Or maybe you take on a big contract. I know Tony Gwynn Jr. was talking about that at the beginning part of this, where the Padres might have a little bit extra money to spend with the new ownership group, and that might be a way that they're able to upgrade their team is by taking on a big contract. But I think it's going to be something like that they end up doing, because I don't think they can afford to trade away Cruz Schoolcraft or Cash Mayfield. And I know they definitely can't afford to trade Ethan Salas as of right now, not with the way he had been playing coming off of an injury last year. I mean, they didn't want to trade him last year, and he was hurt for most of the year. And that tells you everything you need to know about what this team thinks of Ethan Salas. But eventually you got to keep some of these guys. But if you get 2 future starting pitching prospects that are better back for a guy like Adrian Morejon, and you flip one of them with some other prospects mixed in to get a trade, you end up keeping Schoolcraft and Mayfield, and you keep one of the guys from like a deal like this with the Yankees. I think you set yourself up for the future. I think it helps your team now, and you also understand that you get something out of Morejon before he walks at the end of the year, because he is going to command a lot of money, and a lot of money I don't think this Padres team can afford to put into a setup guy. I really don't. So, Frank, I mean, as we kind of lay this out in terms of trade deadline and what the Padres can do and can't do, I feel like a move like that might be the most beneficial for this team. But I just don't know what you're going to get. I don't know how much they have available to trade away that other teams value very high. But if you could make a move like this where you get an Elmer Rodriguez or a Bryce Cunningham, you keep one of them and flip the other for some help at the deadline, I think that's something you definitely have to consider.
Yeah, I don't. Preller has experience doing that. I mean, you think Drew Thorpe, you got Dylan Cease out of Drew Thorpe. and a few others. I don't see a reason why that can't be done. I could definitely see a scenario where the guys that you get for an Adrian Morejon, potentially for a Michael King, never see the field with this team and probably never see the inside of a Padre facility this year. So I could see that being a decent idea. I just don't know how likely it is that you can turn around and flip unless you have something already in the works. Let's just to pick a team. Let's just say you are going for Robbie Ray. Again, just to pick a team. Unless you're talking with them and saying, listen, we know you can't use Adrian Morejon. The Red Sox can. Is there somebody from the Red Sox that you think they would give up for Adrian Morejon that you want that we could give you in a trade for Robbie Ray? Unless you're already having conversations like that, I don't know how likely it is. You would need to do something pretty soon before the deadline if you want to try to shop your turnaround piece before Monday's deadline.
Well, I'm sure AJ Preller's making a lot of. AJ Preller, the last since the draft ended, has probably, again, I don't know for sure, but I think it's an easy guess that he's been on the phone trying to stoke what's available and what's not.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
And so he's starting to run his equations on. Well, if we could flip this guy here. I mean, this is going to be a very creative trade deadline for AJ Preller. A super creative trade deadline. So I think you are going to get, in order for this team to compete in this season, because they believe they can compete. And if you want to improve this team, it's going to have to be via a 3-team trade, I think.
But Braden, he doesn't sound like himself, though.
What?
You didn't see that from Bob Nightingale?
I saw that and it didn't make any sense. I didn't understand what it meant.
But he doesn't sound like himself.
What was the direct quote again? It didn't make any sense.
It's on the sheet. Let's see here.
I remember reading that going, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, AJ Preller, quote, just doesn't sound the same, according to one GM per Bob Nightingale.
What does that mean? Like he's just going to trade everybody away? Seriously, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I found it funny when you said it to me. I have no idea what that means. What are we talking about, Bob? The wishy-washy reports right now from some of these reporters that are talking to agents and talking to GMs that are using narratives for certain things always find me funny. I always find them to be funny, to be honest. I mean, what was the report that you just read during the break? Was that on MLB Network? Is that what that was?
Oh, no, it was on Foul Territory.
Foul Territory?
Let me see. It was, hold on.
It was something to be like, it's like 10% chance that Mason Miller gets traded by next Monday.
Robert Murray was on Foul Territory earlier today. There's a video from about an hour ago saying, quote, AJ Preller absolutely loves Mason Miller, believes that there is, quote, a 10% or less chance the Padres move the all-star closer.
I believe that.
I believe that as well.
100%. They're going to get very creative here, I think. I think they're going to get very creative with how they handle this trade deadline, and I think it is going to be a 3-team trade. But I think your best asset you can trade in which you're going to get value back where you don't lose too much from your team, I think is Morejon out of the group. And it's only because he's under contract for the remainder of the season. You're not going to re-sign. I mean, you could still re-sign him at the end of the season if you really feel like you wanted to give him the $14 million or something crazy like that. But I don't see a situation where the Padres add at the deadline without getting rid of Morejon. I really don't. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. Lots going on in the sports world that's not San Diego Padres baseball or the trade deadline. We're going to get to that with our sports thread when we come back. 11:40. All in the fan. Talking Padres baseball, talking trade deadline. We got some baseball underway. Why are they playing a day game in Texas right now?
Schedule.
Because.
For first place in the division, is it not? The AL West?
Oh, man. That is such a bad division, dude. Let's take a look.
Well, it's not directly for first place. Seattle's a game and a half behind Texas.
Game and a half behind. Do you know what Texas's record is?
I'm looking at it right now.
Cheater.
53 and 52.
One game above 500, first place.
How do you think I knew they were a game and a half out?
You know a lot of random things.
I do know.
You could have just looked at the games back, maybe. Well, that's, what's funny is the last wild card spot has the same record as the team that leads the AL West. And so everybody in the AL West has the exact amount of games out of the division as they do the wild card. I mean, look now, the Angels are only 11 and a half games back. The Texas Rangers. The Astros are 2 games back.
Padres are half a game back.
From the Rangers? Yeah. They are. They're a half a game back for the Rangers. That's why it's like, some dumb comment last week on YouTube that was talking about the Padres. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, but it was something to do with the. It was like in any other division they wouldn't be as good as they are now because they were talking about how bad the NL West is, like in terms of like the Giants and the Rockies and stuff. My immediate response was like, "You're telling me they wouldn't be as good in the AL West? They'd be in first place."
They're half a game out. If they were in the AL West, they would be a half a game out in second. If they were in the AL Central, they would actually be a 3 games out in third. Half a game behind Cleveland. Half a game ahead of Minnesota.
They'd be way out of first place in the AL East.
Yeah, but we don't look at that, though.
The NL East, probably the same thing, right?
NL East, because
the Padres are 4 games behind Philly, and Philly's 5.5 behind Atlanta. They'd be almost 10. They'd almost be 10 games out. They'd be 9.5 games out of Atlanta.
They would have just jumped Miami over the weekend. Yes.
Milwaukee's probably even worse. Yeah, it is.
They would be in third. They'd be in fourth in the NL Central by 13.5. Or no, they'd be behind St. Louis, between St. Louis and Cincinnati.
Yeah, they'd be in fifth. They'd be in last in the NL Central. Which, by the way, that division's gonna cannibalize itself for sure, because they all have to play each other still. Mm-hmm. But you look at go back to that. Think about this: the Padres are 6.5 games behind Chicago for the top wild card spot, which is not crazy. I mean, it's still obtainable math wise. Chicago's 7 games behind Milwaukee. 7 games behind Milwaukee. 13.5 games behind Milwaukee. 14 games back behind the Dodgers. They'd be 9.5 games back behind Atlanta. But they would be almost winning the American League West. Only one team in the AL West has a positive run differential. It's the Seattle Mariners. At least the American League has gotten more teams with a positive run differential. You have 3 in the AL East. You have 2 in the AL Central. It's 5. There's 6 teams in the American League that have a positive run differential, and not all 6 of those teams are going to make the playoffs. Because I don't think Detroit is. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they catch up. Maybe the 6 teams that have the positive run differential will make the playoffs. But
hey, Elias Diaz getting the start for the Rangers today. How about that?
The Rangers are starting Elias Diaz, and they also cut Jared Kelenic today. Remember Jared Kelenic, the big addition to the Mariners when they traded away Edwin Diaz. Man, did Mets fans hope that PCA was going to be the next Jared Kelenic? Bummer. Moving on, let's get to the sports thread.
You hate me so much.
You know that group chat? The one that's
as
always
much as
blowing
Adam
up with
does.
the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
I would argue that Adam gives you more of a hard time about the Mets than I do.
Yeah, you do, but
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does, but yours hurt more. We'll start off with this story
like the
here.
Jared Kelnick.
Number 1.
We'll start off with this story. This is not a good story, and there's no question related to this. Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy has stepped away from training camp after his wife Mia was hospitalized following an alleged shooting at the family's Virginia home. Their son Elijah Zion Bieniemy was arrested and charged in connection with the incident, while Mia remains in stable condition. Chiefs coach Andy Reid and the organization have expressed their support for Bieniemy, with past game coordinator Joe Blameyer temporarily handling his responsibilities. The football world has rallied around the Bieniemy family as he takes time away to focus on his family. That was news that broke this morning. That is just awful. Awful news.
That is awful news. I mean, that's a crazy story, and I'm sure we'll get more and more information out of the Virginia area. It sounds like Eric Bieniemy, obviously missing camp right now, and going back to figure out what's going on with his family. But that was a crazy notification that I got this morning about the situation, and we'll see what the details are on this. But there was a lot of, I mean, it think about the point that you have to get to do something like that to your mom.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's sad.
Yeah, and you now kind of wonder what happened with Elijah, because the last time we heard about something like this, unfortunately, was far too recently with Rob Reiner. And his son had mental issues after withdrawals and stuff like that. So you kind of wonder about Elijah and what's going on there with that story. But since there's no good way to transition from a story like that,
Number 2.
we just straight up do it. North Carolina football general manager Michael Lombardi has been placed on paid administrative leave following a human resources complaint filed by a former UNC front office employee. The university has launched an investigation but has not released additional details, leaving questions surrounding one of the most influential figures in Bill Belichick's rebuilding effort in Chapel Hill. Lombardi, a longtime NFL executive and Belichick's confidant, joined the Tar Heels in 2024 as part of the program's push to operate more like a professional organization, making his absence a notable development just weeks before the start of the season. How much impact does a front office leader like Michael Lombardi have on a college football program, and could this investigation create a major setback for Bill Belichick's rebuild at North Carolina?
Well, I will say this. I mean, who knows what he did over there? It's obviously an ongoing investigation. You're not going to get more info. It's obviously in-house as well. So who knows what he might have said, might have done. You know, I guess there was a complaint from somebody in that office, which leads, and you know what? We'll wait to see exactly what happened. But I mean, it's a distraction to say the least. I mean, I don't know how this impacts any of the guys on the field. I mean, this is like front office stuff. This is like if something happening in your front office, is how much does it impact you as a player? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I still think that North Carolina Tar Heels, since signing up to have Bill Belichick on their staff, has signed up for a traveling circus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, it's been a circus the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I hope it continues to be a circus in Dublin.
Yep.
Then after that, I hope they figure it out. I hope they absolutely figure it out and go 11-1 after losing the first game.
Was that 3 weeks away now?
Yeah, August 29th.
Oh, so a month away.
I
exactly a month.
I had friends who were like, "Why don't you go to Dublin and watch TCU play North Carolina?" One, I don't want to take a week off of work. I could, didn't want to. Also, it's like with coaching high school football, I kind of needed it to be a bye week ish, and it was early in the season. Our bye week is actually week 1. I mean, so I just missed it by a week. Would have been the week after. I probably would have changed my plans and gone to Ireland to watch them play. But instead, I'll be doing the brisket thing again.
There you go.
At the condo. That's what we're going to do.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Number 3.
The Atlanta Braves received a major boost with the return of Ronald Acuna Jr., who was activated from the injured list after missing nearly 7 weeks with a hamstring strain. The 2023 NL MVP returns to the Braves team that weathered its absence, rebounded after a difficult June, and currently sits atop the National League East. While Acuna has battled injuries over the last few weeks, including multiple ACL tears, not weeks. multiple ACL tears and 2 hamstring issues. Atlanta is counting on his elite speed, power, and impact at the top of the lineup as the team pushes towards another postseason run. With Acuna back in the lineup, are the Braves once again the team to beat in the National League, or do his recent injury concerns make Atlanta vulnerable down the stretch?
They're the team to beat the National League East. I wouldn't say the National League. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever going to be the team to beat the National League besides the Dodgers. I mean, Milwaukee has to prove they could beat the Dodgers before I can even say that about them. They're definitely the team to beat in the National League East. They have solid. They're solid everywhere. I mean, this is a good team that they have over there, and adding Acuna back and at any capacity is going to make it even better. And that's, their offense has been one of the worst offenses in baseball for the last month and a half. It's probably because Acuna's not there. So they need a big upgrade that they needed in just getting an injured player back.
And say it loud and proud for those in the back. Who does Acuna play tonight?
The M-E-T-S, Mets. They have Mets chance now because they're just like the Jets.
Number 4.
The NBA world was stunned as LeBron James officially became a member of the Philadelphia 76ers on a 2-year, $8 million veteran minimum contract after briefly considering retirement. At 41 years old, James believes he can still be the missing piece for the Sixers, built around Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown, but still searching for its first championship since 1983. With one of the greatest resumes in league history, LeBron is taking another challenge late in his career, trying to turn Philadelphia from a perennial contender into an actual winner. Does LeBron joining the 76ers in Philadelphia make them a legitimate championship favorite, or is this more about adding another chapter to his career?
I don't know what to make of this. First of all, I don't really care. Okay, I mean, what is he going to be like? Their 6th best player? What does this mean for like Jaylen Brown? I think that's more of an important question than, than what it means for like LeBron or the Sixers having LeBron on their team. I mean, it's a good ad for them. It's good to have like a guy that has the tradition resume that that LeBron has, obviously, but it's such an interesting fit for him in Philly. I can't wait to see him versus Philly fans. To me, that's the funniest part of the whole deal. I think at this point, like, with everything LeBron had accomplished in his career, I think it would have been cooler for him just to go back to Cleveland. It would have been like, okay, cool, let's just bookend this career. He's won enough championships. He's won with multiple teams. He already won Cleveland a championship. He won in Miami, won in LA. I just go back to Cleveland, dude. Just go back to what's playing on the Sixers going to do on a 2-year deal? It is what it is. I don't think that was the right. It probably would have been better for his legacy to be on the Cavs. Instead, he goes to the Sixers, and we'll see what happens.
What's funny about that is also, this is Jaylen Brown a little while ago during the back end of the season. Brown's caught on camera down at courtside saying, "I don't think Bronny is a pro." Speaking of LeBron James's kid, I think he'll be on the G League team for sure. I hope so, but because of his name, he's going to be with the Lakers. That's who LeBron signed up to play with.
It didn't one of the coaches for the Sixers pop off too about this? Or?
I believe so, yeah.
I am curious to see what they do with Bronny now, to be honest. We'll see what happens. When we come back, joining us in the SDCC fan hotline will be Josh Richardson. He'll give us a minor league report on the Lake Elsinore Storm. We got some news that we want to, or discussions about San Diego State we want to get to. And JR Blount, the head basketball coach at USD, will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll also talk more Padres trade deadline rumors and stories when we continue. Padres have clinched the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 05 and 06.
No hype, no filter. Just the truth about your teams, your city, and the people who care about it most.
The reality is the expectations are higher now for this club than they were in 2019 and 2020 when the Padres hadn't made the playoffs that many times.
He's been here. He knows this city. And now he's leading the conversation every single day. Live and local on 97.3 The Fan.
This is fun. We're doing this for fun. This is fun. Have fun. Enjoy the fun with us having fun.
Now, here's Braden Surprenant.
New lunch time hour on The Fan. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We got a couple hours left of the show on a Monday. We talked a lot of trade deadline deals, potentially, a lot of different conversations, some rumors out there. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll get back to that conversation. We'll talk some Aztec football here in a second as well. But right now, it's time to get to our weekly minor league report, and this week we are focusing in on the Lake Elsinore Storm and being joined by their broadcaster in Josh Richardson. He's joined us a couple of times already this season. He is joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. What's going on, Josh? Hopefully you're enjoying your Monday off day before you get ready to go to Stockton, or maybe you're already in Stockton, to get ready for the ports for this week. But what's going on a Monday?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Braden. Enjoying the off day. What's going on with you?
Same thing. Enjoying the Padres off day, if you will. They got an off day today as well, but you're getting ready for Stockton coming up. But for anybody that might have missed it for the last couple of weeks since the last time you were on with us before the ceremonial first half in terms of like the break for the All-Star break, what have the Storm been up to? How have they been playing? And what's the recap from their trip to Visalia, or to their series against Visalia?
Yeah, it's been kind of a roller coaster throughout the start to the second half. Lake Elsinore ended the first half with the best record in the entire California League, clinched a playoff spot. So first in the South in the first half clinches a playoff spot, and then first in each division in the second half also does. But after that first half, they kind of got gutted. They lost 7 key players, 3 batters, and 4 pitchers, all to High A Fort Wayne. The most notables of which, Ryan Weidman, one of the top 10 prospects in the Padres org. Carrington Cross was having a great year. Brian Bowser has worked himself into the top 10 as well on the pitching side of things. So losing all of that talent, the Storm have kind of struggled out of the gate in the second half, a little bit less than midway through that point in the second half of games. The Storm are 11-19. That's tied for the worst record with Visalia. And it was a lot worse than that. And then Lake Elsinore took 4 out of 6 against the Rawhide this past week. Had some comeback wins that were nice. Blew a lead that was not so nice, but then finished it off with 3 straight wins Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and are really starting to look like the team that they were in the first half. So that groove is starting to come back a little bit.
We're talking with Josh Richardson, as the play-by-play man of the Lake Elsinore Storm, as we get an update on what's going on down there in Low A, Lake Elsinore in the California League. Obviously, you mentioned a lot of players getting sent up to Fort Wayne. What are some of the players that have had to step up and play here for Lake Elsinore in the last couple of weeks?
Somebody that has really stepped up into a huge role for the Storm since that first half end has absolutely been Quay Lott. And this is a guy that came in, he was undrafted, he was signed, and he just started to ball out when he, really started to get going for this team in late April and early May. He wasn't somebody that was on the opening day roster, but ever since he's gotten into the lineup, he has been unbelievable, and especially now in this second half. In the last 25 games, Lott's hitting right around 270 with an above 800 OPS. And on the surface, that's good. That's definitely what you'd like to see out of a guy to step up when you lose the quality of bats that you had. But in his last 15 games, it tells an entirely different story. Lott's been hitting 368 with an over 1,000 OPS. So as an outfielder that was undrafted and was a UDFA and has had to fight and kind of scratch and claw for really every second of playing time in the first half because he had Weidman in center field, Connor Westenberg was an everyday left fielder, and George Bilecki was in right. Lott comes in and has started to take some at-bats from those guys in the first half and has been a mainstay in the outfield so far in the second half. He is somebody that Lake Elsinore has really turned to and needed to rely on as well. Somebody else, too, Yimi Tovar, a middle infielder that started in rookie ball this year, got moved up to Lake Elsinore at the end of May and was not hitting well. In early June, his average for the Storm was .061. It's now, in these last 15 games, he's hitting .263. And so far on the season, Tovar is hitting .231. So it has gotten so much better as this season has gone on for Tovar, and guys have stepped up now in the second half of the season that, maybe it's not going to be, an automatic thing where whoever wins the second half, right now it's seeming like Ontario, as each day continues to go by, that they might still be able to put up a fighting chance despite losing so many guys at the end of the first half.
Obviously, it's trade deadline season. It's your first time with Lake Elsinore in terms of being on a Padres affiliate that likes to make a lot of noise at the trade deadline. So I asked all the other broadcasters about big stories. You obviously don't have any ones personally yet, but I'm sure we'll get to some the next time we have you on because the trade deadline is on Monday. But let's talk about it. The Padres are now in a situation in which they look like they're probably going to buy at the deadline. They need some starting pitching help, and you have to give up some good players in order to get good players in return. It doesn't sound like Ethan Salas is going to get traded or a Cash Mayfield, and probably not a Cruz Schoolcraft. But for anybody that wants to know what's going on with him since he's down in Lake Elsinore, or he had played down there in Lake Elsinore, he started 2 games in the last 15 days. He's looked pretty good. How have you seen Cruz Schoolcraft this season? And should he be one of those untouchable players as well with the way that he has played, knowing that this team needs some starting pitching from some young guys going through the farm system?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I know AJ Preller loves to make big splashy moves at the deadline, and this is the first year that I've been, working within the Padres organization, first season in minor league baseball, so I've always kind of seen it from an outsider perspective. And there's always one every year that he does that just kind of blows the doors that no one expects. And Cruz Schoolcraft is kind of playing himself into both 2 roles, maybe being one of those untouchable guys, but also somebody that might just bring up some draft stock or trade value rather, and try and pull in maybe a really big fish depending on what the Padres end up doing. So far in the month of July, Schoolcraft has a 3.7 ERA and 17 Ks in 19 in the third innings. For a guy that's 19 years old, really came into this year with 2 pitches, fastball changeup, and was working on improving a slider that didn't go very well in April. I mean, his ERA in April was 15.9 with a whole lot of walks, 10 walks in 7 innings. He had no control. And as the season has gone on, you've seen so much development out of him, and he's really started to put it together. In June, every single start, he went 5+ innings. In July, he's got 2 starts of over 5 and 2 of 4.1 and 4.2. So everything that he has done has just been building each start, each month. He's been gaining more control. He's been gaining a lot of confidence. And when I talked to Brian Perez, the manager, before his most previous start against Visalia this week, the big thing that he told me was, well, you know what, Cruz got hit a lot, and he did not have a lot of control in April, and it started to come down a little bit in May. But the nice thing about him is how resilient he was and how much he was ready to step up to the task and kind of put his head down, and really, he wasn't missing a bullpen session. He was doing all of his work, and now he's really stepped up into one of the best pitchers on that Lake Elsinore staff. Depending on what Preller wants to do, it's entirely possible that, maybe Schoolcraft gets shipped somewhere else. Maybe he gets to stay here and keep developing into that star pitcher that he very well might become. But at this point, he's certainly playing himself into a really tricky position for the Padres to handle.
I'm pretty sure the last time that we talked, we were talking about Lung Hung Soo coming back from injury. He has now gotten a couple of opportunities. In fact, 4 games started in the last 30 days of the calendar. And, he's a top 10 prospect for the Padres. Not a lot of people know too much about him. He's 19 years old. How has Lun Hung Soo done as obviously a top 10 prospect, but how has he done after coming off of injury and now getting some time to play for the Storm?
Yeah, he's a really young guy. He started the season in rookie ball and really started the season a little late. It was mid-May when he made his first start in rookie ball in Arizona. And then he got moved up to Lake Elsinore in late June, and he definitely struggled out the gate. There is no question about that. His first 3 starts for the Storm, he allowed at least 4 earned runs in no more than 3 innings. So he really had a tough time. Since that, though, he's made 2 starts, one against Ontario and most recently against Visalia this week, and he started to figure it out a little bit more. Against the Tower Buzzers, that was back on the 18th. He only pitched 1 inning, but it was a quick 1-2-3 inning. No one got on, and he did his job. And, he was going to pitch very soon after on that quick turnaround. Usually, Lake Elsinore likes to do a full 6-man rotation and give guys a full week in between starts. It was a little bit shorter of a turnaround for Sue from that Ontario start to Visalia during this week. So he only had a couple of days of rest. That's why he only went the 1 inning. But then against the Rawhide, 2 1/3, 2 hits, and 3 strikeouts, no runs allowed. So he's starting to figure it out a little bit. He's got a lot. I watch him pitch. He's got a lot of Yu Darvish in him in the way that he delivers. His mechanics look so fluid. And I'm really intrigued to see what type of prospect he turns into. He's just 19 years old, 6'1", little light. He's only 150 pounds. But if he can kind of fill out that frame, can add a couple more ticks of velocity where he's sitting usually around 92, 93, he can top up right around 93, 94. It'll be interesting to see how he develops throughout the course of his minor league career. I think when you look at his full, no wins, 3 losses, 6.4 ERA, I don't think it tells the full story. He's got really nice stuff and definitely an intriguing arm for the Padres in the minors.
Talking with Josh Richardson, the play-by-play voice of the Lake Elsinore Storm, joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. All right, a couple more for you. Jorge Quintana is one of those guys that was acquired, from the Brewers. I think in that trade with Brandon Lockridge, the Nestor Cortez trade.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been talked a lot about as part of this organization. Organization is not ranked very high in the prospect rankings, but he comes in the top 30. He was a big piece back. How has he done for the Storm so far this year?
He struggled a little bit to begin the season, and it was mainly a confidence thing. That's what Brian Perez, the Storm manager, told me earlier this week. And, the big thing for Quintana, because he's tapped into his power a little bit more in the month of July, where he's slugging over 500. He's doing really, really well in OPS over 900. He's starting to get those doubles and triples and just find those alleys a little bit more than he was early in the season. He's striking out a lot. That's probably the big knock against him right now. Over the course of the team and with everybody on the roster, I mean, Quintana is definitely somebody that strikes out a ton. Him and Truett Madonna kind of lead the way for Lake Elsinore in that category. But overall, he has certainly played so much better as the season goes on. He's first on the team with 100 strikeouts. So that kind of tells you where he is in that category. But overall, he's a switch-hitting shortstop. He's 19 years old, and he's still got a lot of time to develop at the single-A level. The Padres brought him up to Lake Elsinore really quickly as soon as they acquired him. So he's still kind of getting used to that taste of what single-A ball is like. I was talking about this yesterday on the broadcast. I'm really curious how long he may stay a switch hitter, because his stats versus left-handed pitching and his stats versus righties are so drastically different. I mean, on the season, he's hitting 235 as a whole, but against righties, he's hitting nearly 260 with a significantly higher slug and just continuously putting up really nice at-bats together. And yesterday, he struck out against the lefty, so maybe from the right side still needs to get comfortable a little bit more. He's hitting below 200 batting from the right side. But overall, Quintana is definitely a good prospect that I think people should keep an eye on to continue to improve in the minors. He was the number 5 prospect within the organization. Then after an MLB pipeline update, he dropped down to the late teens. So maybe just some things that, some of those scouts are just not as high on as maybe they once were now that he's gotten some more reps. But this month of July has been a really big turning stone for him. And I think as the rest of the season goes on, maybe as we hit next year, he could be a big candidate to move up to high A Fort Wayne as a 20-year-old.
Yeah, that's a move all the time. I mean, Ethan Salas, fell off a little bit last year. He's now moved his way back up. All right, final thing for you, Josh. Upcoming, obviously Stockton, but what's the next couple of weeks look like before we talk to you again?
So Stockton this coming week, that's away. It's the last time Lake Elsinore will have to travel outside of the South Division for the rest of the regular season. Every other series is either at home or it's against one of the local in-division South Division road teams. So not a lot of travel for the Storm in the month of August leading into the playoffs. That is good. But the big series coming out of this week against Stockton is a home matchup, 6-game set against the second-half leaders in Ontario, which right now is certainly looking like a playoff preview if things stand the course. Ontario right now 20-10 in the second half. That's 8 games above second and third and 9 games above Lake Elsinore. So 2, 3, and 4 are bunched up together in the South. Ontario with a commanding lead. And the Storm and the Tower Buzzers have had 2 of the best offenses, especially in the first half of the year. The thing is, Ontario, Dodgers affiliate, their minor league system is so stacked, they just don't have anywhere for their single-A guys to move up to because everybody is playing so well, and they have so many guys in that minor league system. So they didn't really get gutted because there was nowhere to move those stars in single-A up. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how the Storm deal with that in a home 6-game set against Tower Buzzers. Other than that, trip to IE, then back home against San Jose, and then at Rancho, and then back home against Inland Empire, and that'll end the regular season before Game 1 of the playoffs start on September 8th. So still a long way to go. This is definitely the home stretch, you could say, of the season, final quarter of the year. And if Lake Elsinore, if those last 3 games against Visalia or any indication for Lake Elsinore, they're definitely going to be putting up a fight come playoff time.
Josh, we appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Hopefully the Storm start looking a little bit more like the first half, but you brought up a good point. I mean, not every other organization is pulling guys up all over the place. So we appreciate your time as always, and have a good call this week.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Josh Richardson joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. The 8 teams in the California League. Storm, Tower Buzzers, Quakes, 66ers. I think it was this year is the first year I think the Dodgers have flipped their team to Ontario because they were the Ranch Cucamonga Quakes forever. But in the South, it's the Inland Empire 66ers. Seattle owns them. Lake Elsinore with the Padres, Ontario Tower Buzzers with the Dodgers, the Quakes with the Angels, and in the North, Stockton Ports with that the Athletics, Visalia Rawhide by the Arizona Diamondbacks, San Jose Giants, San Francisco Giants, and the Grizzlies, who are now owned by the Rockies. They used to be a Houston Astros affiliate. Might have been a Giants affiliate too at some point. Anyway, when we come back, we got some San Diego State had their media day for football on Friday. We're going to talk more about that when we come back and what it means to be in the Pac-12 conference. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. Want to mention that baseball coverage on 97 to the Fan is presented by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi, one price, 5 years guaranteed. Xfinity. Imagine that. We're taking a break from our baseball coverage to talk a little bit about college football. Talk a little bit about the Aztecs. They had their media day on Friday, and we're going to give you more of a preview of the new Pac-12 and of Aztec football later on in August when we get closer, but we're not too far away from then starting up camp. I mean, high school football teams can start on Friday. You can wear the helmet start, right? So July 31st, the first day you can start practice, and we're into it. I mean, and from that point forward, you got like 13 practices before you start scrimmaging. So college football usually not much further behind. It will get here a lot closer it'll be here a lot closer than you think. And Go Aztecs in the YouTube chat. He didn't like the way we talked about the Pac-12 last week. I think it's a very winnable conference. But what I don't like is I don't like being gaslit about how important the conference is, how it's a power conference also. So just stop with that nonsense. Prove that you are before you start saying, like, this is the greatest thing ever. It's not. I mean, if you got in the old Pac-12, then maybe. So, interesting article in the Union Tribune last week about how Congress may decide San Diego State's future more than the Pac-12 does. And it's not really an article about, like, the Pac-12 potentially wanting to add schools, but it's about how federal legislation could completely reshape the future of conference realignment, and by extension, San Diego State's long-term hopes of eventually reaching an actual Power 4 conference, which leads to more reason why it was so important last time to try to get into a Power 4 conference, even if it was for, like, no money. Pac-12 appears content staying at 8 football members for now, but that decision could be heavily influenced by what happens in Washington, D.C., which they are still working on in the proposed Protect College Sports Act, or the PCSA. And it's not just about NIL, but it does contain a lot of language that could effectively freeze conference realignment across college football. Pac-12 continues to publicly say expansion isn't a priority. Several conference officials have echoed the same message. Washington State President Elizabeth Cantwell emphasized the Pac-12 is trying to build a new identity that doesn't want to add schools simply because scheduling is inconvenient. They believe in chemistry and branding are more important than adding other schools, than simply reaching 9 members. Deputy Commissioner of the Pac-12, Rick Hart, admitted adding another school would solve scheduling issues. Currently, the conference has 8 football teams, 7 conference games, a strange flex weekend, which I don't mind. I think that's a good idea considering the circumstances, and games that don't count in conference standings. A 9th member would obviously eliminate all of that, yet Hart made something very clear. Membership should never be used simply to solve operational problems. You know, whatever. UNLV still doesn't want to really show that they want to jump into the Pac-12, even though they're an obvious expansion get. But the thing that's interesting about this is Congress throwing in some rules about the proposed Protect College Sports Act that contains language targeting conference expansion. Originally, only conferences making over $1 billion annually, the SEC and the Big Ten, would be prohibited from expanding. Those conferences immediately pushed back, saying it's unfair. Give me a break. And lawmakers have then rewrote the bill, and the revised language may actually be a lot broader to involve a lot of other conferences, potentially preventing expansion throughout the entire FBS. And that's where you talk about San Diego State. every rebuilt Pac-12 member has the same long-term goal, and that's not staying in the Pac-12 forever. San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State, Colorado State, Washington State, Oregon State. I mean, the Pac-12 is viewed by many as a stepping stone and not a finish line. This is a waiting point. This is a waiting room to get into a bigger conference. I don't think any of those schools are in like this agreement of like, we're going to stick together and we're going to make this thing work. First sign that any of those schools get an invite to any other conference, they're probably taking it. But you should think about conference realignment like musical chairs. If the SEC starts stealing ACC schools and the ACC starts replacing them with the Big 12 schools, and Big 12 schools then grab Pac-12 schools, and then Pac-12 replaces with Mountain West schools, and the Mountain West reloads from FCS schools. I mean, that's how like realignment has historically worked. I don't think that would be the case in particular, but one move is going to create a bunch of other moves. If Congress freezes the SEC and Big Ten, then nothing moves, no one leaves, and you don't have these big-time moves from schools from the Pac-12. John Wilner wrote this article in the UT, and he argues that Congress may not understand how conference realignment actually works because simply allowing a group of 6 schools to move upward isn't enough because they can't move up if they can't replace anything. So if the ACC and the Big 12 don't lose schools, they have no reason to invite schools like San Diego State, and that creates kind of the realignment problems. But we haven't even made it through 1 year of the Pac-12 yet. I find this to be interesting, and I think, Frank, this puts just more emphasis on what the last round of the realignment, how important it was for San Diego State to not be in a purgatory spot, but be in a landing spot. And they unfortunately didn't get that invite, or it wasn't enough to really agree to it. I think they've improved their odds, but at the same time, if this stuff goes through with the realignment, I know Congress is trying to make it like better, like let's not have these super conferences again, but I don't think these schools are going to move out of these conferences back to where they were. This is more of they're just going to freeze everything, and San Diego State can't get caught in that position.
You know, it does sound like that. And unfortunately, we'll talk about it in our break video, actually, coming up later today, that you guys will hear the rest of the week, that Congress is unlikely to vote on the Protect College Sports Act before they go on their summer break. So these changes we knew weren't going to be implemented immediately. But yeah, it's really unfortunate how everything has turned out for San Diego State. You lose the chance to join the Big 12, and now you're in the Pac-12, and it's not, the future outlook is not looking as good as people may have once thought.
No. The only way that this gets better is if in this congressional situation, if they put in rules. And here's the problem that you're starting to find with this is they're allowing the Big Ten and the SEC to kind of like call some shots in this negotiation. They're going to make out fine. The whole reason why you wanted to get Congress involved is to put in some rules so not only two conferences benefit from this. I wouldn't fall into the bluff of the SEC saying we'll go our own way. If I was anybody in a position of power, I'd be like, go ahead, see what happens. But the fact that they're like negotiating with the Big Ten and the SEC to make sure they're still at the top right now is going to ruin everything. Then there's just going to be laws that just make them that they're the best and grandfathered in. I understand what they're trying to do with like, oh, you can't add more schools, but the Big Ten and the SEC started complaining about that. Congress should just tell them tough S, unless they have too many influences in terms of who votes on this thing. But if this goes through the way it's constructed with some of these moves, I mean, San Diego State might just be in this conference that is the makeshift Mountain West. And I wouldn't trust that like you're going to get Cal and Stanford back. I don't think they would make that move, because it's still better to be in a conference like the ACC, who has a better TV deal, is getting a lot more money and travel across the country, than it is to be in this Pac-12 conference, unless they put in the rules where, because here's also part of the problem. until they make things equal for the conferences, there's not going to be an incentive for schools to go back to the conferences they're in because it's not going to benefit them. But if you make things all equal, then all of a sudden maybe you have schools that like Cal and Stanford, like, you know what, we could probably win this Pac-12 year in and year out. Or schools like, SMU that be like, why are we traveling all the way to the East Coast for these games? So we could probably stay here. Or even schools like, Texas and Oklahoma. Like, we could go dominate this other league. Now, I don't think Texas ever leaves. They have so much money now, it doesn't even matter. But, I mean, these are the conversations that are happening until you hit like a reset button, which I don't necessarily know you're going to be able to do. This continues to trend towards the two top conferences calling all the shots, which is going to ultimately lead to probably not great things in college athletics. We'll talk more about the Aztecs. We'll talk more about from an on-field football perspective probably later this week, get some updates on that. But we're going to get back to our baseball coverage when we come back. We also need a contestant for a midday sports standoff, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We will find a contestant when we come back. Get back to our baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan. $12:41 on a Monday. 97 through the Fans trade deadline coverage is presented by City Cruises. Live experiences done different. We're going to have a lot of that coverage the next 7 days. We are 1 week out from the trade deadline. What time is the trade deadline actually? Is it 1 o'clock?
It's usually
Pacific time?
It's usually around like 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern.
Let's see. Let's see what it says. That would be 3 o'clock. So it's 3 o'clock this year. It's usually like the cutoff is usually like during our show, but it will be during Gwen and Chris next week. There's going to be a lot of rumors out there to discuss and to talk about. We do need a contestant for a midday sports standoff. If you can take me down in some sports trivia, you'd be qualified for a chance to win our grand prize, a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 food and beverage credit. Oasis Pool Deck at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas is officially open for the season, offering a 6-acre elevated pool experience with 6 distinct pools and Live Beach. Live Beach, Live Beach. We haven't determined what that's pronounced as, but
54 Beach.
54 Beach. Enter to win a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 food and beverage credit to book your stay. Visit FontainebleauLasVegas.com now. We didn't get into the uniforms of the Padres over the weekend. That combo. A lot of people are like, why are they wearing this? Why are they wearing this combo? Why are they wearing the blue and orange hats with the brown and gold tops? Well, it's kind of a Major League Baseball issue, if you will. They look so bad, dude. It looks so bad over the weekend. And you know what? It's not the Padres' fault, though. That's more of an MLB problem. I mean, MLB wanted to have these Hall of Fame hats, which is fine. I think it's cool. Like, the Padres, I mean, the SD was very big. Who cares? But the blue and orange, the 98 hats are sweet. But this is where I go back to the conversation about, like, the uniforms, the uniform rules for Major League Baseball. Everybody gets a City Connect, and then everybody gets a home, a road, and an alternate, and that's it. You only get 4 jerseys in Major League Baseball. Look, they don't want to be the NBA. That's fine. You know, when you watch NBA games, you can't even figure out who's playing who with all the different courts and the different jerseys that they wear and the different uniforms. So I get where Major League Baseball is coming from. They want to have a more set uniform where you know it's the Texas Rangers playing, you know it's the Atlanta Braves playing, you know about the Yankees and everything like that. I feel like it's a missed opportunity to not include 2 throwbacks, 1 home, 1 road. So when you have weekends like this, you can go and wear those throwback uniforms and it would look cool all weekend. Like, you could have the Florida Marlins play the San Diego Padres and have them wear their 90s uniforms with the hats all Hall of Fame weekend. It would be awesome. And guess who would buy all these jerseys? All the fans. Like, I understand the decision-making on keeping things traditional as possible. But for me, I would totally allow teams to have a home and a road throwback that they can wear on throwback days or throwback nights. And if you don't want them to wear them all the time, maybe you do a rule where here's your throwback uniforms. You can only wear these, like 10 times a year. Or
for
something.
League mandated days.
Or you have a way back Wednesday or a throwback Thursday if you want to, but you have there's 10 different games that you can decide to do that. And when you decide to do those games, then the away team can wear their throwback away if they choose to. Like, I feel like that's a pretty simple rule. I think having the throwbacks would be cool. But when they start limiting the jerseys, it's like I get where they're coming from, but you're allowing all these teams to have these crazy City Connects. I don't know why you wouldn't just let them have a throwback each And at that point, I think that's a fair amount of uniforms. You don't need any more than that. A home, a road, an alternate. You get your City Connect, and then you have your throwbacks that you have a limited number of opportunities you get to wear those. I think that would be great. And then you don't have the crazy uniform combos you had all weekend. And again, not a Padres problem. This is a Major League Baseball problem. But the hats this weekend with the uniforms, man, that was a rough look. But it wasn't just the Padres. I mean, there was a lot of teams that didn't have anything match this weekend. And I think that's a missed opportunity on Major League Baseball to not include throwback jerseys.
100%. It'd be fun, though, if you let the team decide which throwback is the one you throw it back to.
Maybe they did. Who knows?
There are some throwbacks. Like I just saw it today. On this day in 1999, the Mets debuted their Mercury Mets logo, their Mercury Mets uniform. I would love to see that in a throwback. Just in the far off distant year, these are the type of uniforms we'll be wearing in the far off distant year of 2021. Didn't pan out that way, but to see those Mercury Met uniforms come back would be pretty hilarious.
Usually when somebody goes, if you were a commissioner for a day, what would you do? I usually have nothing off the top of my head. I have now come up. I have something for you. If I was commissioner for a day, I would enact a uniform rule. And here's what my uniform rule would be. If you are at home, I would go back to the traditional rules. Your home jersey has to be a white on white uniform or cream. You get to pick. And it better say your mascot name, so your team name. All home jerseys should require the team name and not the city name. City Connects are different. I think all road jerseys should be some sort of gray or offset, like the Padres with the sand, okay? Or I think there's a couple of teams in the American League that don't have gray uniforms for the road, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but that's kind of where it should be. And all of the road jerseys should say the city name on them. And then your alternate could be something that you can wear both home and road. It doesn't matter if it says the city name or the team name on it. And it is one that you can wear with both white pants or the gray pants. That's your alternate. You get a City Connect. And then, I know they have to do this a couple of years down the road, but for each year you pick what throwback 2 uniforms you want. So if you want to do the 90s Padres uniforms, one year that could be your throwback Thursday, way back Wednesday. And then the next year you could be like, we want the 80s Padres. Like, I think that would be ideal. And then when you do these Hall of Fame weekends, the whole weekend everybody's wearing their throwback jerseys and you get the hats that match the uniforms. I mean, to me, this seems like a very simple fix. If they're going to have uniform rules in place, I'm surprised these aren't part of the uniform rules.
Yeah. I agree 100% because the Padres look awful. It's one thing if you're doing like the 70s throwback hat, but to go with the 90s throwback hat where you don't have any color resembling that is just all that was bad.
Somebody in the YouTube chat says, I think they get an alternate for both. They only get one alternate. The Padres get an exemption because of the military appreciation uniform. So like they get the exemption for the military jerseys. But I think you get 4 in a City Connect. So maybe so they use one of them, but then they mix up the. How many times have they mixed up the camo this year? Have they worn the different camo?
No, that's only no. I don't think.
I think
they
it's
have.
kind of been the same. So I think you get like the 3, and I think you get like I know the Padres get an exemption because of the camo uniform.
Yeah, because I remember years ago. This is when they were the Blue Padres. They would have like an Army camo. They would have
they had the Navy one,
the Navy digital camo, and then the ones that they more or less the ones that they wear now. So yeah, that is interesting. I haven't seen them mix up the camo in years. Come to think of it now.
I feel like they've been the same. I don't know. We haven't seen them at home in like 3 weeks. All right, so you do get a 4+1. So the Padres get an extra one because they have extra. They have like the kind of different shades of the military. Mm. But yeah, I would do it where you had a home, a road, an alternate. Let them have 2 throwbacks and a City Connect. You're only adding 1 extra jersey at that point. and then you can actually have a Hall of Fame weekend where it doesn't look dumb with the uniforms. But anyway, 833-288-973, 833-288-973. I think we got a contestant. Let's get to our midday sports stand-up.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, it's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, Frank, what we got going on today?
We have Brandon in El Cajon playing today. Brandon, how you doing, bud?
What up, guys? How you doing?
Good, good. All right, so this happened over the weekend. A player for a team just became their franchise leader in home runs. There are 5 active players in Major League Baseball who currently lead a franchise in home runs. Who are those 5 players? So not too many answers today. Brandon, you have the first pick.
I'm gonna start with the guy you're talking about, which is Salvi Perez.
Salvador Perez over the weekend did become the Kansas City Royals all-time home run leader. Yes.
Well, didn't Manny do it like last year?
Manny Machado is the Padres all-time home run leader. Correct.
No, I think I actually saw the list online this weekond.
Don't say that.
No.
Well, I did see it floating around online this weekend. Because I know Giancarlo Stanton was on the list for the Marlins.
Yes, Giancarlo Stanton is the Marlins leader. Yes.
I'm going to go with, this is a shot in the dark. Mike Trout has to be the Angels guy.
Mike Trout is the Angels guy. He's also got the most home runs on this list at 422. Brandon, can you take it home?
See, this is where seeing the list over the weekend doesn't help today. Hey, I'm honest. Max Muncy, I know he was up there. I can't remember if it was him.
No, not Max Muncy.
I'm trying to think of like guys that like did it for like their own, like it's just, you look at guys that have hit a lot of home runs, but they've played for multiple teams. So like, did they do it enough? I wanted to guess like, I wanted to guess like Bryce Harper, but I think he got a lot with Philly. What about no, because he hadn't been there a long time. I'll just go with Paul Goldschmidt, maybe with the Diamondbacks.
Luis Gonzalez is the one. This was done last year, so it was done recently.
Really?
Brandon?
Is it? Oh no, Lindor wasn't in it. I was gonna guess Lindor, but you said last year, so he wasn't with Cleveland last year. I was thinking maybe with Cleveland. Oh man, was it Kutch last year in Pittsburgh?
Nope, unfortunately not. That's 2 strikes. We only got a couple seconds here.
All right, are they still playing for the team?
No.
Oh, what happened last year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're not playing for the team anymore?
Nope.
Kutch is a good answer. Last year. Well, that eliminates like a lot of guys I was thinking of. What about, there's no way. Did Pete Alonso do it last year for the Mets? No, are you kidding?
Yes, he did.
Oh man.
Pete Alonso.
Brandon, I'm sorry, bud. You were seconds away from getting it on a tie.
That'll wrap up our third hour. JR Blount will join us next.
Hey, it's been a
1:00 on a Monday. It's a little humid outside. We're not used to this kind of weather. Not here in San Diego. I was getting some Texas flashbacks living in Texas around this time in college. I would prefer the San Diego weather, but hopefully we can grind through this. But it was still fun over the weekend. Get out and go to the pool and hang out at the beach. I saw USD basketball at some team building, hanging out by the pool over the weekend. And now joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline, it's not Big Bang Banking, it's Better, is their new head basketball coach. Still hasn't coached a game yet, getting ready for the grinding through the final days of the offseason, getting ready for his first season as the head coach here in San Diego. JR Blount joins us on the SDCCU fan hotline. What's going on, JR? How'd your weekend go?
How we doing? It's a great weekend. It's always great in San Diego, it seems. So we had our got our guys over to the house and got in the pool, had some pizza. It was a pretty good time. How about yourself?
Had a great time over the weekend, and JR, as you're starting to you and the family migrate out here to San Diego, and you're starting to enjoy each and every day here. What is some of the things you've learned about this city? What are some of the places you like to go? How's it been in the last couple of months or so since you got hired here, living in America's finest city?
Yeah, no, I mean, just that. I mean, I think the weather and the opportunities outside have been endless, and we've enjoyed the beaches. I'm not a huge beach person myself, but my wife and 3 girls absolutely love it. So I was there yesterday at Solano Beach, and we live right over there, right in the Del Mar area. So we've enjoyed downtown Del Mar. We enjoyed Carmel Valley. So we've made it downtown. Went to Ed Sheeran at Petco Park, and we've been all over the place.
That's a great place to live up there in Carmel Valley. It's a great place to be. A lot of great spots. I'm up there a lot, coaching at Cathedral. So, if you need any recommendations, let me know. We'll hook you up on some spots up there. But from a basketball side of things, how's the offseason been in terms of recruiting? Obviously, you had to hit the ground running after coming off of a run by Iowa State in the NCAA tournament. You got to reshape this team. You got to implement what you want and your signature on this program. How's that process been the last couple of months from a basketball standpoint?
Yeah, from a basketball standpoint, it's been great. I mean, I've said it. I appreciate and love these guys that we have, a group of 15 guys. And, the recruiting process was good. It was a lot more about character and a lot more about who these guys were off the court than on the court. We can watch the film and kind of get a good glimpse of what they can do basketball-wise. But they've came in and really lived up to what our mantra wants to be is GBD. It's just getting better every single day. And now we're on week 8. We actually finish tomorrow with our last practice tomorrow morning, and then we'll finish the week with some team building, some bowling, some games, some beach stuff, and have fun. But it's been exceptional. They've been, building a foundation based on growth every single day, and it's been intentional and with discipline. And can't say the credit to these guys how much we're appreciative of what they've done.
We're talking with head coach of the USD men's basketball program, JR Blount, joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It's better. Tell us a little bit about your roster. I mean, obviously, we're not going to see them until, relatively October before you guys get ready for non-conference action. Who are some of the players that, a lot of San Diegans should be expecting to see on a daily basis on your 15?
Yeah, definitely. I think it starts with kind of 2 Southern California guys, and Dusty Stromer and Marquis Worthy, guys that have been leaders for us and leaders since day one. And have size and position at the guard spot and the wing spot to be able to contribute right away on both ends. They're both physical, but both able to stretch it from the perimeter. And then, our bigs, I've been really impressed with Jose Roberto Tanchin, a transfer from UMBC, and they went to the NCAA tournament last year. He was a starter for them. And Sekou Kone, who was a transfer from UW Milwaukee, somebody that I've known since his high school days, and both of them just going after each other every day and continuing to make each other better has been really beneficial for our team. Like, we've talked a lot about competitive endurance, and those 2 guys have been an implementation of that and an example of that every single day. And, it's really been about the process for us. All these guys have bought into daily habits, and we've turned those habits into standards, and then now working to turn those standards into the identity of who we want to be as a team.
This day and age of college athletics, I mean, the retention rate's not very high for a lot of, a group of SIG or mid-major programs, if you will. And, brand new staff, obviously maybe some guys that and you trust in that you built around, for you. But you got a lot of new faces on this team, and you mentioned a lot of them. But, how difficult is it now to get them to, work on a cohesive basis. I know you're mentioning get better every single day, but that usually takes time. There's a difference between practice reps and game reps, but how difficult is that now with college where, it's not like you got the USD job and you have, here's 14 guys coming back that, want to learn how to do these things a little bit different, but they have that camaraderie. How do you try to instill that in the offseason? How do you try to get close to game reps as possible when you got a bunch of new faces?
Yeah, I think for us, it's all been started with what we do every single day. These guys are getting up in the morning. We're practicing every morning, and we talk about them. We talk about our daily habits. We talk about how hard we're working, and we feel like that builds our camaraderie. It builds team chemistry with what we're doing every single day and how hard we're working. And, we finish every day with the team meeting. So we start every day together. We finish every day together. And then we've done a lot of stuff together on the weekends when we're outside of practice and, YMCA, Humane Society, state, went to the county fair. We've just done a great job. And the leadership team, which is our senior group of Jose, Marquis, Dusty, and Javon Hill have all done a great job of just making sure that, whatever we do on Saturday, they do something together on Sunday, and just small. They went jet skiing, they went to the movies, like just building it as a team, because the most connected teams win in February, March, and April, and that's something that I've been a part of the last 5 years, and these guys have done a great job of building that over the last 8 weeks.
We're talking with the head coach of the USD men's basketball program, and JR Blount, joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. Obviously, when you talk about the West Coast Conference, and I mean, we just talked about conference realignment in the last hour or so. There might be some changes to that, but you guys have to control what you can control. And right now, Gonzaga's not in the conference anymore. And that's been the big program in basketball, and this conference really opens up the door for a lot of other other teams to step up and be that kind of focal point and that mainstay in this conference. And obviously everybody always wants to take on, the best at their best, but you don't have Gonzaga now. How does that change the outlook, and how excited are you to, maybe take control of USD and make USD part of the focal point of the West Coast Conference?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Gonzaga leaving, obviously choice that they had to make, and something that for the rest of the league, how much of a powerhouse they were. And, it's a good and bad thing. They obviously provided a quad one opportunity for the league, but I do think that the St. Mary's and the Santa Claras, the teams that were also in the NCAA tournament last year, deserve credit for that. And for us, it's just looking at it as something that's wide open. Like, the conference is wide open. I think there's a lot of new coaches, a lot of new faces, and in this landscape of college basketball, there's going to be new rosters. So we, again, just pride ourselves on what we're doing every single day to formulate the standards that we have for ourselves at USD. And then we always say the process is a lot greater than the outcome. So if we want success, we're just going to continue to bet on ourselves. And, we think that we got a good group of guys here that can handle both success and adversity and work to be the most connected team.
We had Blanche Alverson on last week, JR, to talk about the upcoming clinic on Saturday. I will be there emceeing it, and I'll do my best to try to be a point guard and kind of dish it off to a lot of great speakers. Congratulations, you guys sold that out or are at capacity, which is great. But for all the local basketball coaches here in town that might be listening right now, what should they expect on Saturday, and how excited are you to to teach some of the youth coaches and some of the high school coaches this weekend?
For sure. First and foremost, we definitely appreciate all the support to get it to capacity. And, the clinic is completely free to attend, and we just want to emphasize accessibility for our coaches at every level, and, use this as a sense of community engagement to get people here, to get people to USD, not only from the San Diego area, but from all of SoCal. And, we have a great lineup of speakers, from Jeff Van Gundy to national championship, and Corey Close to Blanche, who provides great stuff. And then I'm just bringing up the end of the bargain here, but Seth Davis and Anthony Slater as well. And I think it is just a special opportunity. I'll talk about how we can tackle each other and play some physical defense. I don't know that it's something that everyone will want to see, but it's something that our guys have really embraced and been enthusiastic about. And, I'm sure the other speakers will have a lot of greater stuff to talk about, but it is an event that we're really happy to put on and more to showcase everything that USD has to offer and here in our beautiful basketball performance center as well.
Coach Blount, always great to talk to you on the airwaves. We appreciate it. I'll see you on Saturday at the clinic, and we'll get you on again right before the season starts.
Awesome, Braden, man. Really appreciate you.
JR Blount joining us in the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking, it's better. And excited, USD basketball right around the corner. Local colleges basketball right around the corner. Should be a fun event on Saturday. We appreciate JR Blount's time joining us on the SDCCU fan hotline. A little college basketball mixed in there. It's great. It's never too early. You know what? I'm sure John Rothstein's tweeting about something right now that involves college basketball and breaking news. Some random scheduling. Haven't seen the USD men's basketball schedule yet, so we'll see what they put out in the next couple of weeks or so. But we got 3 D1 schools in town. And USD is the one that kind of needs to now catch up to the other 2 with the success that they have had over on the Mesa for San Diego State and now over in La Jolla with UCSD. When we come back, we're going to talk about San Diego FC. They played over the weekend, got back to their winning ways. We'll get a full breakdown from Frank on what happened on Saturday when we come back. 1:17 on a Monday. Longer day of the week for us here at the Braden Surprenant Show, the Monday days. Got a lot to get to still on the show. I have to say, I want to do, we talked about starting to pay attention now to the Little League. And we have two teams, which we knew was going to happen, competing in the SoCal Regional for Little League. This is the level that can get to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and both of them are 2-0 in this bracket. So it's a 10. I misspoke last week. I thought it was 11 teams. It's a 10-team bracket. Winner of this tournament gets to represent Southern California in the West region, and then the West region winner will go to Williamsport representing the West. Scripps Ranch out of District 32 is still alive, as well as Sweetwater Valley. On Saturday, they both won. Scripps Ranch beat Eastvale 5-1 to advance into the. Both the San Diego teams got play-in games, which kind of stinks. But Sweetwater Valley beat Golden Hill 2-0, so they both advanced. On Sunday, Scripps Ranch played Ladera Ranch and won 8-5. That is 7-1 lead in that game. Ladera Ranch came roaring back in the fifth inning. And Scripps Ranch able to hold Ladera Ranch off. So Scripps Ranch has moved on to Tuesday, where they're going to play Glendora American. Glendora American beat Rolling Hills in their first game 6-3. So they have a day off, which is great today. That affects big time when it comes to pitching in Little League, because there's pitch limits on pitch counts, everything like that. On the other side, Sweetwater Valley won their first game, as I mentioned, and then they beat Goleta Valley South 6-0 on Sunday. They will also play on Tuesday. They're in the Final Four of the winners bracket in this tournament. There have been two teams eliminated from the Southern California State Tournament, so they're down to 8 now up there. A win for Scripps Ranch and Sweetwater Valley on Tuesday would put them against each other on Thursday in the winners bracket. A loss for each, and they would have to play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in order to win the tournament. So it's so important to get those wins early in these double elimination brackets. So Scripps Ranch 2-0, Scripps Ranch Little League, and Sweetwater Valley also 2-0. As I mentioned before, they will both play Tuesday at 6:30 in Aliso Viejo, California at Woodfield Park. On Field 4 will be Glendora American and Scripps Ranch at 6:30, and on Field 6 will be Encino and Sweetwater Valley also at 6:30. There are going to be games today in that bracket as well, but two of our teams still alive in the tournament to try to get to Williamsport. If only one of them obviously can win, but we have some pretty good chances of maybe having a San Diego team represent Southern California in the West Regional. Still a lot to play, still a lot to get to, but good first showings there. I wanted to get to that happened over the weekend. A lot of birthdays in the YouTube chat today, huh? We got Juan Ruiz in the YouTube chat. Happy birthday to Juan. Hopefully he has a great day. Hopefully you have a great afternoon. Hopefully you have a great night tonight. Don't have to watch the Padres. You go out to dinner. Perfect for Juan. So maybe Juan will tell us where he's going to dinner for his birthday. And then shout out to Jake Waters in the YouTube chat. His son is turning 20 today. He's asking where should he take his son for dinner. Depends what your son likes. Got a lot of great spots you could potentially go to. Where do you like to go for your birthday, Frank? Do you like to go out or do you like to stay home?
No, I usually like to stay home. My dad usually makes whatever.
What do you have your dad make?
Whatever we want. It's usually just meatballs and stuffed shells. We never really do stuffed shells ever.
I've only done stuffed shells a handful of times. They turn out super good, but it's it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. So usually it's that. Usually an egg sandwich in the morning and stuffed shells at night.
Stuffed shells at night. No lunch?
No, never. Not really big on.
Not a big lunch guy.
No.
We'd rather go out with with the dinner.
Yeah.
What's your dessert? Birthday dessert.
I don't really have. It's gonna start being his cheesecake now. But other than that, we really haven't had anything too crazy for dessert.
Juan's birthday was Friday. He went and saw the Tijuana Cholos over
there.
The
You go.
That's a pretty fun day down there. Go down there and walk across the border. go to the game. It's a fun time. I know. I think Ben did that a couple of years ago. Maybe it was last year. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Happy birthday, Juan.
Happy birthday to Juan. Belated now. It was on Friday. All right, let's talk about the soccer team here in San Diego FC. They're now 1-1 in the post-World Cup break. And, you know, it was a survival game for San Diego FC going against FC Dallas. They won 1-0, and, you know, they scored first. They controlled the match. They actually finished it. They looked a lot like what they were expected to look like after last year, but the 1-0 victory doesn't really erase a disappointing first half of last season, but it does represent the blueprint that Mikey Varas has been searching for, Frank. And they played with speed, and they did exactly what you would expect them to do against a team like FC Dallas, and they won a very important survival game over the weekend.
Yeah, it's funny. You think that out of the two games, you know, the Colorado Rapids were 13th in the Western Conference going into that match, and FC Dallas was 5th. So you'd figure the two games would have been flipped. You would have thought San Diego FC would have won on Wednesday, and then with the loss, or at least a draw this weekend. But yeah, very, very solid match. It was more back to normal status for San Diego FC. You get a big goal from Alejandro Alvarado from outside the box, a beautiful strike, and sealed the rest of the game for them. Dominated possession, dominated in shot attempts, dominated in shots on net. They were the attacking force that we came to expect from them after the way last year ended and how this season started. So it felt very much like a return to form for San Diego FC. Now it's what the other professional team in San Diego is battling. It's, can they find that consistency to be able to continue to do it? And
Alejandro Alvarado Jr. provided a pretty feel-good moment. I mean, he suffered a serious injury that kept him sidelined for months. Alvarado finally earned his first Major League Soccer start of 2026 after impressing off the bench in Colorado. And, you know, Mikey Varas gave him a chance, and he rewarded Varas immediately. In the 50th minute, he got the goal, as Frank mentioned, turned outside the penalty area, hit the right-footed strike to the bottom corner, first MLS goal of his career. And the most interesting part about this, after the game they mentioned this, but his teammates have been telling him to stop looking for the perfect pass, and Christopher McVeigh simply told him, just shoot. And he did. And he scored.
Yeah.
And San Diego FC was able to win. Son of a gun. Yeah, just shoot it. Just shoot it. But pretty remarkable story. What a great moment for him.
Yeah, it's funny how that stuff turns out. And also a big signing for them over the weekend as they got Tunisian winger Elias Achuri, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I'm sure Juan or whoever will correct me there, but that's one of their international signings. And reports are that we're hearing that Mo Salah from Liverpool was speaking with an MLS club about signing. It was either an MLS club or Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia seems now that he's more or less talking with MLS about coming over here. So not sure if that's San Diego FC. He's had a lot of links to San Diego FC, but you've gotten one of your international signings in Achuri coming in, and then now you never know with Mo Salah.
I find that to be interesting. Obviously, take that for what it's worth, right? I mean, the report. I mean, who knows what team that they're really talking to?
They don't announce a team. Yeah, they don't say a team.
I mean, he might sign with somebody else in the MLS, and then that'd be obviously very frustrating. But I do think it's significant that he might be signing with an MLS team over Saudi Arabia. I mean, that keeps your hopes alive, right? I mean, and this team needs another designated player.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see like the banner above the stadium, right? They're like free Chucky Lozano. I mean,
yeah, that was before.
He's had issues everywhere he's been. It comes to a point where it's like, when is it his fault? But for a lot of people that are just diehard Chucky Lozano fans.
But again, the problems that San Diego FC have are not problems that Chucky would fix. They're having they're having defensive issues. It's youth and defense, where Lozano is an older forward. So it's a completely reverse situation. So I don't see how. I think San Diego FC sticking to their guns, especially when it got tough, and especially as they're getting a lot of pushback from the fans. I think it's the right move to continue to stick with their guns with Chucky Lozano, because again, what is ailing this team, he's not going to fix. If he was a big time defender, sure, yeah, you really have you have a strong case there. If it's an offensive issue, a lack of offense, then fine, you have an issue. But it's neither. It's not. He's not a defender, and it's not an offensive issue.
No, it's been a defensive issue. I mean, it's the late defensive breakdowns, and they almost had another one over the weekend. I mean, before Saturday, San Diego FC had blown 14 points in the final 5 minutes of matches, which is astonishing. And we talked about the joke that Tyler Heaps made to the media before the second half of the season started. If games were 85 minutes, we're probably third or fourth in the standings. But games are 90 minutes plus, and that's where the problems have been. And it nearly happened again on Saturday because deep into stoppage time, Machado had a bad pass that nearly gifted Dallas the equalizer. But instead of quitting on it, he sprinted almost the entire length of the field, blocked the shot, saved 3 points. And Mikey Vargas said he reached a career-high sprint speed right there. I mean, that recovery may become one of the more defining defensive plays of the season, and that's a recovery play of somebody going like, we're tired of losing or drawing like this. I mean, that's a pretty remarkable play by Machado over the weekend that saved them a victory, and they needed that victory so bad over the weekend.
No, they absolutely did, and especially, again, after the way they lost to the Rapids on Wednesday. They lost on a stoppage time goal. The same thing that's been plaguing them all season long is how they lost. So they got exactly what they needed on Saturday night, and now they're playing against Minnesota United, who aren't as good as they were last year. So I don't see. So this is, you really have to start building off of this, especially as you get ready for the international tournament that's coming here.
They didn't panic in the last 5 minutes. I mean, that's been something where they've had a lot of issues. I mean, they didn't panic. They didn't give away the possession. They didn't, invite pressure. I mean, they managed the ball. They controlled tempo. They protected the lead. And for a team whose season has been haunted by late collapses, that's kind of the biggest takeaway. I mean, they were able to overcome that on Saturday, which I think is a good stepping stone for them in the second half. And then, CJ Dos Santos, he got a clean sheet, his first clean sheet. I mean, he enjoyed one of his best nights. He only needed one save. He recorded his first clean sheet in this MLS season, 12th overall clean sheet with San Diego FC. The defense also completely neutralized FC Dallas striker and Petar Musa. And coming in, 13 goals, hat trick earlier this season for San Diego. Saturday, 0 shots on target, outstanding defensive execution. And you know what they did? They something that burned them earlier in the year in Dallas, they were able to prevent from happening. I think it's another big adjustment that they made, and another big reason why they won on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is where it starts. Now you have to try to build that momentum, build that consistency going into Minnesota United, and then going throughout the remainder of this season. Because you're not far off of a playoff cutoff spot.
No, you're not. You're right there. Again, the two San Diego teams right now are doing the exact same thing. Not playing to their best potential, letting games go that they shouldn't, and they're still hanging around. You know what they say about teams that are hanging around? You don't want to leave teams hanging around, especially not teams like the Padres that have shown that they can do very well in the late innings and have been a playoff team through the last 4 years. And for San Diego FC, a team that really dominated last year. Speaking of domination, match statistics, they controlled almost 70% of the possession, 19-7 on shots, 8-1 on shots on goal. I mean, Dallas barely threatened all evening. And Mikey Vargas, the head coach, credited the tactical shift against Colorado, the mid-block and conservative, compared to Dallas, where they were aggressive, high press, controlled possession. He wanted San Diego to be the protagonist, as he said after the game. And mission accomplished for San Diego FC.
Yeah, especially after the way they came out against Colorado. They controlled a good majority of the game, but they didn't overwhelm the same way they did against FC Dallas. So this was more of a return to true form, or the form that we expected out of San Diego FC from last year and how this year started.
5-7-5 now. They have 20 points. They're 11th in the Western Conference. Still a lot of work to do, but the mood has changed, I think, dramatically after finally earning the 3 points, and sometimes it's the first one. That is the most difficult, so we'll keep you updated on San Diego FC.
Hold on, we got to do it again. We have to.
We won a game yesterday. And if we win one today, that's 2 in a row. We win one tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. It has happened before.
And it has happened before with San Diego FC.
Not quite today and tomorrow, more like Saturday and Wednesday, but same deal, same bit, same kind of thing.
When we come back, we'll go back to the Padres talk, what this weekend means for the San Diego Padres, where they're at in the standings, what they can do at the trade deadline. They have an off day today, but Gwen and Chris come up after us. San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. All of our guests join us in the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bang Banking. It is better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, setting us on one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. All right, we're leading into Gwynn and Chris today. There is no Padres baseball today. A much-needed off day for the boys after they went 5-5 on the road trip. Right, but too early, kind of. I thought they'd go 5-5 on the road trip. They just kind of did it in a different way than I thought they were going to do. I thought they'd take 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. They went 1-2. I thought they would split with the Braves. They went 1-3. And then I thought they'd lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins, and they actually swept Miami. So they got to the 5-5, and they went into the All-Star break at 500. And they played 500 ball in the 10 games after. And yet they picked up a game and a half in the standings because of how everybody else was playing in the National League. This weekend, you got to see the Padres play at what you would expect them to play this year. This is the kind of team you expected, right? You expected them to hit like this. You expected the offense to be like this. Home runs by Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, the stars carrying the offense, getting a little bit of support from their supporting cast. You thought that, they had some good bench pieces at the beginning of the season, and you knew the bullpen was going to lock things down, which is exactly what they did after the Padres got the lead in the 8th inning. And you thought that the starting rotation was going to be a little shaky. This is exactly what you thought the Padres team was going to be. They play like the way that they did over the weekend for the remainder of the second half. They're a playoff team. Our biggest thing, and the big reason why we said, we didn't think they were going to be able to come out of this, and I'll believe it when I see it, is the fact that they haven't been able to do it consistently. And I still have a major problem with the starting rotation, but you know what? I don't mind this new approach from the staff. And here's as much crap as people want to give Craig Stammen, as much crap as people want to give Steven Souza Jr. I haven't really heard too much crap to Ruben Niebla, but that's neither here nor there. I think you got to give him credit for the way that the team has been playing. If you look at the San Diego Padres and the way that they've been playing from an offensive perspective after the beginning of the season that they had, you have to give Steven Souza Jr. some credit for the offense playing the way that they have. They have been a top 5 offense for the last month and a half. They have. If you don't believe me, look it up. Look at the last month and compare them to everybody else in Major League Baseball. They're a top 5 offense. We said that last week. They were reporting of that over the weekend. We said that last week, and then they continued to do it over the weekend against the Marlins, and you saw it in a lot of the breakdowns and articles from the local media that cover this team every day. They turned it around. I mean, you could talk about, Manny Machado working with Teacher Man over the offseason, and he didn't look very good in the beginning part of the year, and there's only really one guy that he has time to work with during the season, and that's Steven Souza Jr., So the team is collectively playing a lot better. You're seeing better output out of Jackson Merrill and out of Manny Machado and out of Fernando Tatis Jr. Luis Rengifo looks like the player he was in Anaheim before he wasn't in Milwaukee. He's been a big upgrade. Sure, there's a couple of players that are slumping right now, but that's going to happen over the course of 162. Got to give him credit. You also have to give credit to Craig Stammen for coming up with and whether it's him or his staff, somebody down there at Park Boulevard came up with the idea of, let's do what the Tigers did in 2024. Let's have this chaos pitching where we only have really 2 starters and we have 11 bullpen arms and it's all hands on deck. And, guys are not throwing more than 30-something pitches, 40 pitches so they could stay fresh, right? And we're just going to have a bunch of guys find us outs. And that worked over the weekend against Miami. Is that going to work against some of the best teams in Major League Baseball? I don't think so. But it will work for the next week, I think. I mean, I think it works against San Francisco and Colorado. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to figure out another way to try to find outs. But I think it sets up for an opportunity that they're hanging around. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot. I mean, this thing's being held on by, on the fringes right now. But these are games that the Padres are winning, and this style of baseball this weekend worked out, and, they got to try to continue it tomorrow against Colorado. They're still mathematically alive. I mean, well in it. I mean, 2 games out of Arizona for the final wild card spot. St. Louis has just been crumbling in the last 10 games. They only won 3 of the last 10. Miami has lost 12 straight. That's a franchise record. Washington is still hovering, but I wouldn't expect them to add. They're going to fall apart in the second half of the season. Pirates say they're buyers. I think they should be. They got good pitching. You still get to play Pittsburgh here at Petco Park, and you took 2 out of 3 from them in Pittsburgh, so that's a very big series when that happens. You still get to play Arizona a handful of times. In fact, you play them next week. You'll play them during the trade deadline, right after the trade deadline for 4 games or whatever it is. Philly looks okay. Chicago doesn't have pitching. I mean, they're just they put a ton of runs on teams, but they can't stop anybody. So I think this is pretty much it's open for the taking, and things are laying out in the Padres' favor. But that doesn't mean they automatically are going to make the playoffs. They have an opportunity now to seize this and be a playoff team, which I don't think anybody believed even last week. But as you go through this roster, and we talked about it earlier today, and I like this, this deployment of what you have pitching-wise in terms of like using the bullpen. Here's what I got with this. I mean, as of right now, you have King and Buehler as the only guys that you give the ball to, and you hope they give you 5+ innings. That's based on what they use this weekend. You could say that. And King pitches tomorrow against the Rockies. And then your bullpen right now is Canning, Hart, Marquez, Matsui, Miller, Morejon, Peralta, Rodriguez, Sears, Vasquez, and Waldron. They're expecting Estrada back this week from his right knee inflammation. Or whatever it was. I think that's what it was. They expect him back this week. So if you bring him back, you could cross somebody off the list. And as of right now, the way he's pitching, Matt Waldron actually kind of did a job, but you could take Waldron off and you could put Estrada on. And then by mid-August, in a couple of weeks, you're going to have David Morgan back, which means you could probably lop off. I don't know what they're going to do with Griffin Canning. I don't know how much more leeway you could give this guy, but you could replace Canning with Morgan. I don't think they do that, but you can. You should be getting Jason Adam back by end of August. And at that point, who knows who's going to be the worst pitcher. But, it could be Marquez. It could be a guy like J.P. Sears. You add him to this bullpen. So now, instead of Canning, Waldron, and maybe Marquez, you have Estrada, Morgan, and Adam mixed with Hart, Matsui, Miller, Morejon, Peralta, Rodriguez, Vasquez. They're expecting at some point to get Pivetta and Musgrove. You get those 2 guys back. With this kind of strategy, maybe you don't need them to go 30-something. Or maybe you don't need them to go 5 or 6 innings. Maybe you just need them to give you 40 pitches. Go 2 innings. Go 2.5, 3 innings. Which is not saying much, but you know what? I mean, you got to use what you have. And if that's the case, you lop off 2 other guys that you got to make room for. And all of a sudden, maybe it is Kyle Hart. Maybe it is a J.P. Sears. So now, in your bullpen, Estrada, Morgan, Adam, Musgrove, Matsui, Miller, Morejon, Peralta, Rodriguez, Pivetta, Vasquez. That's that's a lot better than what it was before. Now, whether or not you move Buehler back there to be one of those guys and you let Joe Musgrove or Pivetta start, or maybe you have those guys part of your rotation, I will believe it when I see it with those guys. I mean, they both threw live BP last week, 20-something pitches each. They're going to do it again this week. They're still far from returning, but those are maybe some additions here. And if you add a pitcher or 2, whatever it may be, I think you're probably more in the realm of adding relief pitching, just because it's going to be expensive to add starting pitching. I mean, this is a lot better of a pitching staff to finish the season. And if the offense continues to play like they have for the last month, I mean, they can really make a run at this thing. They could. I mean, I said they were done on Friday, and then they swept Miami. I mean, there's a lot of ifs on what we just went through, and one weekend series against the team that has lost 12 straight games doesn't really change that too much. But if you're A.J. Preller and you're looking at next week, the question is not whether or not you think that this current Padres team could win a World Series. The question is whether or not you think they could be one of the best 6 teams in the National League and be a playoff team. And if the answer is yes, then you add at the deadline. If the answer is no, you might sell on the fringes. But I mean, I don't think you could I don't think you start selling pieces that are not rentals. And I could see a situation, we talked about it earlier in the show, and I'm sure we'll get more reports as the days go on. The more I look at it with adding Estrada back and Morgan and adding Adam, I think you're in a position where you could potentially trade away Morejon. And you can use that to either get some prospect capital to flip or use it to just kind of build up your farm system and think of the future. But, with how much money Morejon's going to go for on the open market, and with the fact that he's probably not going to be back next year, and with the fact that, I think this team's good enough to be in the playoffs, I don't think there's a lot you can add without sacrificing some major prospects in order for this team to make a run in the World Series. I think you're better off just going with, the playoffs are a crapshoot anyway in Major League Baseball. I think it's wise to trade away Adrian Morejon. And how you judge success in Major League Baseball, to me, is going to be more about making the playoffs than just making a run through. I think it's better to be in the playoffs than it is to not be in the playoffs. And as crazy as that sounds that I said that, there's a lot of people that disagree with me on that. There's no guarantee what the future is going to hold anyway. Any chance you have to make the playoffs, you should, and then see what you got. I would rather be the team that's one spot in the playoffs and loses in 2 games than be the team that never made it there. Maybe that's a minority opinion. I don't think that's the case. But I think that they could get there without Adrian Morejon if they use him to trade and maybe use the trade pieces to get another pitcher in here. Because I think you could get a solid bullpen arm that's not a back-end guy, and I think you can go with Bragley, and I think you could go with Morgan, and I think you can go with Estrada, and you're probably not going to trade Adam because I think people want to wait to see how healthy his is. I mean, you can make the playoffs with those guys back there and not having Morejon. You could. I mean, Morejon's pitched a ton of innings this year. He's been a workhorse. He hasn't had the same ERA as he had in the past. I think he's done a great job, but I'm not sitting here going, how can you not let this guy go? I mean, that's good enough to make the playoffs. I mean, whether or not you beat the Dodgers remains to be seen, but in order to fill out the rest of your roster, he might be the move that you have to make because he's gone at the end of the year. You're going to have to go with some other left-handers back there if that's the case. But here's the thing. If you want to actually trade, I think it's beneficial for you to trade Morejon more so than it is to trade away any of your future pitching because you need those guys eventually. Eventually you're going to have to stop trading away any type of pitching prospect that you have. And that's where, I think you have the best opportunity to improve your team because I don't think you could trade Musgrove. I don't think you can trade Tucker Musgrove. I don't think you can trade Schoolcraft or Mayfield. Make it the playoffs, see what happens. That's how I see it. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you disagree with me, you can call me tomorrow. Gwynn and Chris coming up next. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.